Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is Thursday, March the 7th, 2024. It's another Technical Alpha podcast. Glad you could join us today. Got another great show lined up for you as always. I say that, but we ain't got nothing to talk about. We're flying by the seat of our pants today. I said that reflexively, but we ain't got shit. This page is blank! In fact, I'm pretty sure, like, I won't. But our page is literally the episode number, which isn't even the right number, first of all. It's 316. This is on our shared doc that we use. Segment 1 has nothing in it. Segment 2 has three things, one of which is Jesus this week was slow. That is the podcast notes. Thanks, babe. That is the podcast notes for this week. So, we're just winging this shit. Today, I opened up, if you're here and you're catching this live, I opened up the tech support section to every paying member, so whether you're $1 or higher instead of the typical $5. And so, if you wanted to get in a question, this is a good week to do it. As I desperately try to, find, there we go. There, okay, good. Alright, so, anyway, like I said, it's Technical Alpha Podcast. Gonna be a lot of Dune 2 talk. Oh, that's definitely gonna be a Dune 2 section, I'm sure. A little Mr. Black review, for sure, no doubt. But before we do, the most important question of the week, and perhaps more important than it's ever been before based on how much we have to talk about. Mr. Black, how's your week?
Very busy. I got a lot of shit going on. I have not streamed the last 2 days, and because I am flying out to Miami tomorrow, and I needed to.
That's right.
I needed to prep for this, prep the family for the trip. Well, they're not coming, but I need to have the house in order and put things in place, and then I also, I don't know what it is, man, but as of late, I have been in this gotta get shit done around the house type mode.
Spring cleaning mode.
It really was. Today I spent an obscene amount of money having people come over and remove all the junk from my life. So I have
you Marie Kondo'd yourself.
Oh, dude, the truck, the truck. I was expecting him to come because we got a new washer dryer, and I was just expecting him to come grab that. I had an old dishwasher. I have a bunch of stuff, whatever. My garage has turned into a place where I hoard a bunch of shit for rental properties just on the off chance that I may need something. So I got rid of all that, went to the, the little shed, the pool shed, cleaned out that thing. I could dance in there now. It's just, and just shit that was in the basement, just shit that has just been laying around. So I got rid of all that, and what else did I do? Yeah, I did a bunch of stuff this week. I did a bunch of shit, and I'm fixing toilets. I'm fucking fixing door handles, and doors aren't opening properly. I'm fixing that stuff. I'm just going around the house, and I'm actually doing shit for once in my life. So it has been it's been a productive week.
Good.
Yeah, took a fair amount of time off streaming over the last week, and I kind of needed to just because I was streaming so much that other parts of my life just neglected as fuck. So I'm pretty much all caught up now. I get to fly out to Miami tomorrow. Big UFC card tomorrow. It's on Saturday. And gonna go hang out with Mr. Miyagi for, and a bunch of, I don't know anybody else. I literally just know him and a bunch of his friends. But I'm just going for I've never been there, so I'm boys, wherever you want to go, just tell me I'm there. Just let loose, have a little bit of fun.
Oh, you've never been to Florida?
No, never.
Or not, sorry, yeah, Miami, yeah, you've never been in Florida in general. Have you been in Florida? Have you been to Florida at all, or just not Miami?
No, never been to Florida.
Okay, yeah. I've been there twice, but only when I was really young. And I think the only difference between now and then is bath salts.
Okay, yeah, sounds about right.
Instead of sprinkling crack on people, we're sprinkling bath salts now. That's kind of, I think that's the one change. I don't know if fentanyl has made its way into the lives of Miami.
Oh, probably.
Miami could probably. America, but hey, listen. Don't forget, you might not know anyone, but if you aren't walking through those plane gates listening to Will Smith,
I'm ready. I've already got it bookmarked, ready to go. As soon as I get off that plane and I walk outside, welcome to Miami. I'm Miami. So yeah, I would be party in the city where the heat is on.
You'll be the 400 millionth person to have done that, but it's still gonna feel good when you do it. 100% worth it. Well, that's a pretty solid week. I had that mode here a couple weeks ago where I went offline and just did a bunch of shit around the house. And honestly, as I'm looking back into my storage area, I'm feeling like I'm gonna have to have another one of those days or two where I go out in the back of the storage area and spend my entire day fucking around back there. But it's good when you have those days, though. It's funny, you always feel better on the other side. You always feel a million times better. You actually feel like a weight has been. You didn't even know the weight was there. You've been walking around with the shit on your shoulders. You don't know why, and then you're like, "Oh, let me clean this house up. Let me fix the door. Let me do the whatever the fuck," and then you just feel a whole bunch better. But you would think that after having realized that epiphany, that you'd just keep on top of it and do it because it feels good to do it. But that never happens. You let it accumulate again until you're like, man, I really gotta maybe do some shit, and then it all happens at once, and you spend 3 straight days just doing absolutely everything that you could have spent 5 minutes doing over the course of the last, 9 calendar months. But I do the same thing here, and I am definitely going to be doing some more of that. My week did not have that this week, though. My week this week was more or less playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. That's a video game. So I got a couple of days in on that. You stopped in, you saw it a couple times. Yeah.
I watched you play it for about, I don't know, I was probably looking for about 45 minutes or so. I just kind of was watching, and I had it on in the background, and I was, to me, it looks all right. It actually looks all right. But I know you go into these with a little bit of a different mindset, and you're reviewing these games and stuff like that. So
I'm harder on it than most people will be. I will never not admit that I'm harder on this remake than a lot of people will be. And I think that's just because I mentioned it before, I have a certain Final Fantasy VII is not even one of my favorite games of all time. I'll just preface all of this by saying that. It's certainly, I respect it as being one of the most important games of all time, no doubt. However, it's not on my personal, list that I have to absolutely mention every time I talk. That being said, I have a lot of respect for the original, and, so the way that they treated this whole remake thing, where for years, and you'll remember everyone, there was a fever pitch. Most people here are going to be old enough to remember this, but if you're not chronically online, maybe you wouldn't. But there was this fever pitch around a remake for Final Fantasy VII in the late 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say fever pitch, I mean that shit was everywhere, every video game forum, anything that had to do with it, everyone was screaming during the PS3 era for this Final Fantasy VII remake. And then they had that little teaser thing at one point, but then they came out and they said, you know, we just don't. In order to do Final Fantasy VII as a remake, it's too time expense. You know, it's too much. It's going to take too much time. It's going to cost too much money. And they said that for years and years and years because they kept getting asked this in interviews over and over and over again because people were like, literally, the internet was entirely behind getting this thing out. Everyone would have bought this shit. And the ask was, whenever they talked about it, people were a little confused because people were like, you know, they're talking a lot of shit here. We're just looking for a visual update. We're not asking you to rewrite or change how every system in the game works. Now, understanding that when you make a remake that far removed, you're rebuilding everything anyway. But in terms of reinventing the wheel, nobody was asking for them to reinvent the wheel. People were just like, we want the turn-based shit, we want the orchestral version of Nobuo Uematsu's music instead of like the old school stuff. You can give us the updated, we went to like the fucking Philharmonic and fucking recorded all this like live music and shit. Like, give us that version of Final Fantasy VII. That's what people wanted. And there is no way you can convince me that that version of a remake of Final Fantasy VII was ever going to be nearly as expensive as what they're doing right now. Both in time and money. There's just no fucking shot. So from that perspective, I do get a lot more hard on it.
They wouldn't have made as much money because they are splitting these up as full retail
games. Oh, absolutely.
So yes. Instead of one game, right? Yes. That you know, they're really this thing.
But what they would have had to have if they like, because there's an expense. Each one of these games has got to be costing them well north of $100 million, like probably pushing $2. And so you're going to be almost spending $700 million.
They see using the same engine and everything as of right now, but I'm sure as we get towards the later, we'll probably see Unreal 5, and that's when
I hope we get Unreal Engine 5. That's when the money,
you know, that's when shit's going to get you know, even more expensive. But I'm sure as they make more of these, I wouldn't be surprised if the cost of the games are going down. Because of the assets and things that they have.
They can flip some assets,
and flip things,
Yeah, for sure.
But I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so like I'm just a little harder on it than I would be normally. But I also truly think, even removing that portion from it, I honestly truly think that this is one of the best examples of nostalgia ruling the narrative of how good a game is I've ever seen. Like because if you... For example, and this is what makes this example really quite something. If you were to play Final Fantasy 16, which just came out last year, and Final Fantasy 16 used the foundation of Final Fantasy 15 and 17 remakes combat, but then looked at it and said, you know, because the guy that worked on some of the combat was the guy who does like Devil May Cry combat for 16. And they definitely sat down and said, okay, this is what the Final Fantasy market is currently kind of used to. They're used to Final Fantasy VII Remake. They'd had it in Final Fantasy 15. This is the direction that the franchise is going in. But how can we make it better? And I have to imagine, given having played 16 as well as Remake and now Rebirth, that when they sat down to make 16, they said, this combat system has got too much going on and it's not accomplishing enough for how much it's asking the player to do. It doesn't make sense. So they kind of distilled the combat into a more simplistic form that still gave you all of the output that 7 Remake gave you, but it got rid of the redundancies and it got rid of the contradictive design choices that they made in 7 Remake. And it was really good, and it felt good, and it looked good, and you felt like a goddamn badass playing 16. I actually think that you would probably, except for your love for Final Fantasy VII as a franchise, obviously, or as a part of the Final Fantasy universe, Final Fantasy 16 is easily one of the best games I've ever played from the perspective of feeling like a certified badass. When they hit their high spots in that game, they were fucking high spots. And even if what they were asking you as an input was kind of like minimal, like you weren't doing some crazy 47 button fucking pretzel ass combo, it didn't matter because it still found a way to make you feel like a fucking god, which I think is more important in many instances than anything else when it comes to combat. You want to make the player feel like they're doing some crazy good shit and they're progressing as the game goes on. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth learned no lessons from 16. Zero. They were being developed more or less in parallel, so in fairness, it's not like they could wait for 16 and then say, okay, let's learn entirely. But if you're going to tell me that those two teams did not say a single word to one another the entire fucking time that those two games were being developed, that'd be crazy. You've got a guy working on 16 Combat from a game that's heralded as one of the greatest action combat franchises of all time, Devil May Cry. That's a how many other games have better combat in that genre than Devil May Cry? You've got like Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, and then everyone else.
Which is Devil May Cry.
Yeah, which is Devil May Cry, right? So like you've got the cream of the crop. It's right there. And you're going to take none of those, you're going to take zero lessons that are being learned over there and putting it into this one. So here,
well,
that's my concern.
Okay. I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate, but I hear everything that you're saying. I'm just doing this because
we got nothing else, so please. We literally have no points in this section of the podcast, so please.
So I obviously haven't played Final Fantasy VII Remake. I haven't played the first installment, and I haven't played the second installment.
Yeah.
I will play them all when my son's older and all these games are out.
In 10 years,
right?
yes.
And in 10 years, 5 years, whenever, as long as my son is at least like 10 years old, I think he'll be good enough to at least, play alongside me, experience it.
Yeah, for sure.
But so here's it. When I see you play it,
yes,
because I haven't watched anybody else play it. I don't like being spoiled all that much, even though I probably won't remember in another,
by the time
5,
you play
6, 7, 8 years. But let's just go and say when I watch you play it.
Yeah.
And then I recently played Final Fantasy VII back in 2014. Pretty much,
okay.
I think 2014.
This is the last time you did a run?
Is when the last run that I did. And I didn't even do the full run. I did like 80% of the run. And then another game came out, or I started playing League or something. I don't remember what I did, but I pretty much got the experience.
Yeah.
And I can say,
yeah,
objectively, I think.
Yeah.
So it's a two-parter. First is the original, as I've played it, it's a better game because it's a complete game. You can put it in, you can throw in each disc, you can get to the end of it, everything is done, it's complete. And it's an amazing. It is one of my favorite, it's in my top 3 favorite games of all time. It is my number 1 favorite RPG of all time, easily. The only game that I can really put in front of it, no problem, is StarCraft Brood War, simply on the basis that it changed my... Well, not that game, but StarCraft 2 even. I put that above Final Fantasy for obvious reasons. And then I got like Mario 64. It's a toss-up. I kind of want to give Mario 64 it because it's just got more replayability. It's just for me it's just, but it's top 3. It's there. Okay?
Yeah.
And to be fair, I haven't played that many games since becoming a full-time streamer. So, my gaming experiences, I didn't play any of the new God of Wars. I didn't play any of the new Baldur's Gates. I didn't play any of the new all these games. And maybe when I'm done this as a career, maybe there will come a time where I'll just go and binge games that I didn't get to experience when I want to experience them. But I will tell you this, when I watch you play Final Fantasy VII, looking at it, it just looks like a better game. It looks like, visually, obviously.
I would hope so.
I would hope so. Even the combat. Play Final Fantasy. You go replay Final Fantasy VII.
Well, they're two totally different forms of combat.
I get it. I get that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the one that you're playing is worse.
No. I get you.
It is better. It's more action packed. It's not as all those hack and slash games, even in Devil May Cry, the novelty of it wears off by hour 5. It's like, okay, you and then there'll be sprinkles of like, holy shit, that was incredible. Simply from a cinematic standpoint. You fight a boss, you see the cutscene kind of comes in with the battle. You're like, oh my God, I really feel like I was part of the cutscene. This is fantastic.
Which they do in this as well, by the way. Which I don't know if you were there for it to see it, but they do it as well in this. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So when I look at that, right there, I already get excited simply because I am comparing the original to the remake.
Yes.
I'm not comparing the remake to Final Fantasy 16
Yeah.
or Final Fantasy 15
Yep.
or Final Fantasy 13 or Final Fantasy whatever. It's Final Fantasy 7. It's not these other games. And Adam, I didn't play 16. I didn't play 15 or online or whatever the hell. I didn't play 14. I think that's the online one.
Yep.
I did play 13, and I did play 13-2 or the Lightning, whatever it was.
There's
those.
3 of them in total, but yeah.
Okay, well, I played 2 out of 3. Okay,
which is the best, honestly.
But you know what? I didn't hate 13 as much as you did, or a lot of other people.
I didn't hate 13. I hated 13, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
13 2 was pretty bad.
Yeah.
But 13, I actually thought was a pretty good game.
Yes.
In my opinion, it was better than X2. The last one that I enjoyed was X. And from there, I went all the way to 13. So I didn't play anything else. So when I look at Final Fantasy, or the one that you're playing, I'm not comparing it to the ones that you've played.
Yeah.
And to be frank, I know that there's a diehard Final Fantasy fanboys out there and fangirls that play all of them. I get that.
Yeah.
But you also got to remember that there is probably a large percentage, obviously probably still a minority, I don't know, but it's larger than of small double digits or single digits that haven't played any Final Fantasy games for many years.
We have a community member that's in that exact position, playing Remake and now Rebirth. Datbeard is doing it, so I talk to him a lot when I talk about my gripes. I want to see what his perspective is as somebody who has, like, his baseline is 0. Yeah.
So my other baseline would be 13. That's it. And I played that game a decade ago, pretty much. Like, it was a long time ago now. So I understand your reasons for feeling a bit let down on, because you've seen what it can do, and you're like, well, why can't it? If you've got these people in place and you've already done this, why in the fuck wouldn't you just do that for this? And there's a whole slew of reasons. You've already said one of them. If they're being made at the same time, you don't know.
You can't expect anything to happen from, or not anything, but you can't expect it to be identical, for example.
Exactly. And also, we don't know if all of these games are actually in development almost simultaneously. So there may actually be, while they're working on this, they might also be creating things for the next one, because certain assets, level designs, areas in the game, whatever, may bring you back to these areas, and they could literally be building out, almost like filming a franchise where you film John Wick 3 and 4 at the same time to save money, production, all this other stuff. And there might be just some limitations on what they can and cannot do without completely overhauling everything. I think in the future, if they do go to Unreal 5, then that's probably when we're going to see the most drastic changes from a mechanical and graphical standpoint and a performance standpoint, for obvious reasons. But they also still need to keep some kind of continuity within these games, or it's not going to feel like Final Fantasy VII anymore. It's going to start to feel like some other Final Fantasy game.
Part of the trouble when you're making a game that's broken into multiple parts over the course of like a 12-year release cycle. Yeah.
Correct. So I get all of the criticisms, and when I was on your stream, you even showed several of them, and I agree with all of them. But at the same time, from a Final Fantasy VII standpoint, when I think of remakes, I'm usually let down by remakes. They usually look like ass. They're not good. Although we've had a good string of them when it came to Capcom and the stuff that they've done with Resident Evil, I think they're the best ones out there doing it for sure. And then you've got Final Fantasy, which is now ventured into this, like, decade long or maybe even multi-decade long remake. And I think it looks fantastic. I just do. And I want to hate on it. I want to hate on it, but I just can't. I haven't played them, so I can't bring myself to to shitting on this because, dude, when I'm watching Cloud and the rest of them, and you're running around, I'm going, oh my god, look at this. You know what I mean? Like,
but that's what I mean right there. That's what I mean.
You want to buy the game.
That's what I mean.
Go play it, you know?
You're the demographic that I'm talking about where it's really difficult because you're and it's not that this is wrong to have this point, but what it means is for somebody who does criticize it, there are a lot of people who will refuse to admit them because they have that exact same thought. They're going back in time to seeing 4 triangles in the shape of Cloud's fucking arm that's like not even connected because the PlayStation physically couldn't calculate the fucking positions of both triangles at the same time, so the joints weren't connected. We went from that to this. And I will always praise the art team for having done such a ridiculously good job. I mean, we've had, obviously, like with Advent Children and stuff, we've had modernized versions of these characters for them to build on. That being said, is that I'll always praise them because they did a absolutely spectacular job of bringing these characters from what are barely recognizable as human beings on the PlayStation 1 up to what we have now is immaculate. And when you're looking at the graphical budget in the game of everything on screen, it is very clear immediately that most of the power and resources in many of these scenes is going into rendering these characters at as high a possible fidelity as you can hope to have. I mean, they in some of these scenes, depending on what they're drawing on screen, you know, and it's all like in engine. It looks like a cutscene from a few years back, basically, where that's completely like pre-rendered. Yeah. And so they've done a ridiculously good job, and that is the trap because you have somebody like yourself who's played the original and you're a big fan, and then you see your childhood on screen, and now you're running through the grasslands instead of like.
But that's all I want, though, Adam.
Yeah. Yes.
That's all I want.
No, and I'm not.
I don't need the next Boulder Gate experience, right? I don't need a Dune Part 2 experience. Be nice if you gave it to me. Yeah. Be nice. I'm not gonna complain. But like, dude, it's Final Fantasy VII. It's all up from where we were. There is no down. Yeah. It's only up.
Well, I'm gonna say the story is down.
Is it though?
Yes.
Is it though?
Yes. Yes, and I can say that because I've played all of them.
Well, I can see the story. I can see the story feeling like it's down because you're not getting a complete story, and obviously they are stretching out and probably adding a lot of new stuff that you had never seen in Final Fantasy VII. But
it's completely rewritten. The whole, not to spoil anything for you, it's completely rewritten. Yeah,
dude, I got a hot take.
Yeah,
I don't think the original Final Fantasy VII story is all that great.
It's not amazing, but it's better than what this is. Okay. So, and without spoiling anything for you, I can talk about it without spoiling it. So, and here's the craziest part is that the people who wrote the original are still making these, and they're saying that this is closer to whatever vision they had originally. Which I honestly, I got to keep it a buck. I just think they're trying to sell a game because they're so different, and the story is not something that holds you back when you're making a video game. Like, the story isn't the thing where you're like, okay, I've got 2 choices, for example, in what we had here. So Final Fantasy VII was as an overarching tale, is a bit of the typical Japanese culture, anti-government, anti-corporate. Thing, young people rising up against the corporate and government that are killing the world kind of deal, whatever. But they dealt with some pretty, at the time at least, themes and stuff that were handled well, characters that were endearing despite looking like 4 triangles on the screen. And there was a cohesiveness there that does not feel quite what we have now because of how they're doing it. So, as somebody who's at least watched a lot of movies in their time, and you'll know that movies and books are similar in this regard, there are some literary crutches that are often used by weak writing when they don't want to put the effort in to actually have something that's well thought out on the other side. And one of those, I mean, the big three, I'll say one right off the top is Amnesia, as you know, is one of the biggest literary crutches of all time for character development. We are all in on Amnesia to try and carry some of this. Another part of it, the multiverse. When you can't figure out how to do it in one, fuck it, just keep adding more on, tacking on like bolt-on body kits on a 1990 Honda Civic until it looks almost like something that can drive. That is also in full fucking effect. And the final one is when you can't make a compelling enough, let's say, antagonist, you just take something nebulous and you give it a semi-corporeal form, you go, yeah, that'll work. And that's what they've done here, with which one of the lead writers for this, who's Nomura, who unfortunately also is heavily involved in many of the characters in the writing for my favorite Final Fantasy, which is 8. I don't know where the fuck he lost his way. I think Kingdom Hearts, he took too many mushrooms and just fucking went on a trip. But he has this, he has been stuck in a rut where he has to have the game's story rely upon fighting some physical manifestation or similar of fate. And we've got that, Amnesia, and the goddamn multiverse all at the same time, because this allows them to do what you were talking about earlier, which is stretch the everlasting fuck out of it to make it a not 3-part, this will be 6 or 5, because they're putting interludes in between each release, like with Yuffie. Right. I'm almost positive you're going to get one for Vincent or something along those lines as well, in between these games. So they're using all of these terrible literary crutches to take a story that, like you said, it's not going to shatter the world. It's pretty standard. Now, at the time, it wasn't as standard because that was newer at the time.
Correct.
But very stereotypy and whatnot, especially by today's standards. But at the time, that wasn't necessarily as much of the case. But they took that story, and they didn't want to just redo that, so they blew it out, and instead of actually having, like, some honest-to-God good writing in there, and it's not like they don't have access to good writers, they're just leaning on these crutches to stretch this bitch like Stretch Armstrong. Just fucking 2 arms on both sides, buy it now for $20 at Walmart. That's kind of where we're at right now with the story. So, the character designs, and the voice actors, and the music, and all that, the world builders, the world designers, fucking goddamn legends, every single one of them. Incredible, because they do exactly what you're experiencing, which is take what you thought you were seeing in your head as a child, because when you were looking at that shit when we were kids, we're not seeing triangles on a screen and shit with pre-rendered backgrounds that look like ass, playing on a 12-inch CRT. We're seeing entire worlds, real people, we're seeing all that shit, and so the skill that it takes to be able to take that and pull it forward into current technology and make it look almost exactly like everyone saw these characters in their mind is a goddamn skill that is insanely impressive to me, and I appreciate it a great deal because I was there too. I played it as a kid and I experienced those same feelings. Why I criticize it so much is that while I do appreciate those things, when I'm playing the game, these other portions suck the life out of my fucking body. So, for example, just to not to make this go on, but again, we have nothing else to talk about. But just for the combat,
let's wrap it. Let's wrap it up in a couple because I'm getting Final Fantasy out.
Yeah, for sure. So, like, just to talk about the point that you brought up as well. So, the combat, obviously, 2 different styles of combat: turn-based ATB that they popularized back in the '90s versus what we've got now, which is this more action combat system that's built off of 15, which is also a iteration of 13. Because you'll remember that in 13 was when they first started flirting with the idea of working a little bit more action into the scenes, make it look a little bit more cinematic, etc., etc. And you were doing a lot more on the fly to make it work. But it was manageable. And when you mastered it, the systems all kind of fell into place, and it was a very workable system. And so I appreciated 13's combat from that perspective. 15, we got closer to full action. But the problem was that they were still kind of half-tied to the turn-based systems they were trying to fold into this action, and it didn't work. It got to the point where the last boss in 15, because again, I played all these games, I beat him with one button. I mashed one button. I didn't even look at the screen. I mashed one button until he died. It took a while, but that was the most efficient way to do it, because when you tried to engage with the game as it wanted you to, it was less efficient, way more work for basically the same result where you're beating the boss. And so you just hit the button. So 15 was not great, but it was their first foray into this big open world, you know, we're stepping aside. I forgave them a little bit for that. Now we iterate in 7 Remake, and in my mind, when they announced 7 Remake, I went, please God, because I just played 15, I said, Jesus, fuck me, please don't do 15. And they went and did 15. But they built on it a little bit, and it was better. Credit to them, it was better. And it highlighted, for one, the animation team is a fucking goddamn bunch of legends. The problem is, you never get to appreciate any of that. Unless you're watching video like on Twitch where you're not the one in combat, you don't get to appreciate all this shit because they have you juggling such frivolous fuckery to make all of that happen on screen. You're not appreciating the fact that Tifa looks like it was animated for a fucking TV show. Like if you slow it down in slow motion and watch her animations, it doesn't even need to be there. You're never seeing it, but when you slow it down, you're like, fuck, this is incredible. But you never get to experience it because of all the fuckery that's involved. And they carried those same problems to 7 Rebirth, and then they added more on top of the combat that wasn't already there, which exacerbated some problems. And I'll finish with this to describe the combat here so that you understand what I mean. So, when you're in combat, remember I just said they're still tied to that ATB from 97, because they don't want to 100% let go, right?
Well, I don't think they should 100% let go.
No.
Part of...
And I don't think they should either.
Final Fantasy, yeah.
And I don't think they should either. I'll give solutions. I'm not just going to be the guy that gives problems. I'm going to give the solutions to this at the end of this. So the problem is that because they're still ATBs, every character in your party, which you're controlling 3 at a time, yeah? So you've seen that when you watch me play. You're controlling 3 characters. All of them have their own ATB bars just like they would have had originally. The problem is that those ATB bars for characters you're not controlling creep forward. I mean, they basically don't move. You might as well treat them as if they don't move anywhere, if you are not directly controlling them. And so, it incentivizes, what does that tell you? Well, they're trying to incentivize you bouncing between characters and not just using playing one.
Cloud. Yeah.
Okay, fine. However, when you switch characters, your characters, when they're being controlled by AI, could be attacking fucking literally anything. And if you got multiple enemies on the field, or you're against a boss that has multiple parts, or if they have little minions, things like that, when you're not controlling them, they're just in the background, jerking off, doing whatever the fuck they want to do to try and look useful. When you switch to them, you can't tell them.
Can you not switch, start attacking the one that you want, and then switch to something else, so continue just until that one's dead?
Not necessarily. They can choose to, if something else happens in battle that let's say the boss grapples who you control. So you're grappling Cloud. And the mechanic there is that another character is required to break Cloud out of that grasp. If you're not switching, the AI will flip a switch in its head and go, okay, I need to go and get Cloud out of this situation, this predicament, and it will switch. So you don't have direct control in that regard, and they'll fly out. And so when you change to them, they're attacking something different. The camera the camera will just be like, oh, is that a bird? The fuck is going on up there? And so the camera will do a fucking 180. You're completely disoriented. You have no idea, especially since the combat's hectic. There's particle effects and shit. You just switch characters. You don't know sometimes you don't know where the fuck you are. So you've got to reorient, figure out where you're at. Sometimes you're interrupting the AI when they're in the middle of an attack, which means they get attacked by the enemy that they were in combat with. So you've taken damage, reorienting, go to attack who you actually want to attack, all to do three moves to then switch again and have the same problem happen. And then when you rotate back to Cloud or whoever else, Cloud is once again looking off into the fucking distance, not knowing what's going on. So why is that important? Well, in Rebirth, they added, as you would have seen, maybe if you were there for 45 minutes, you might not have even seen it because it's actually so infrequent to happen. They have these combo moves now, like team attacks. And every person, you unlock them, every character with other characters have specialized attacks that you can choose to do, that they do it in tandem.
Wombo combos.
Yeah, but in order for you to do that, you have to build up meter in order to have this happen. Not ATB, this is a separate meter.
A wombo meter.
Many of these wombo meters require 3 bars. But it's not just for one character. You get a 3-bar 2 characters.
So you got to keep switching between. If not, none of them actually go up. You actually can't use it.
And it's not a regular attack. It's not a regular attack that increases that meter. It's an ability. So you have to fill the ATB at least 1 bar and then use an ability that is designated to increase the wombo meter. Okay? So you have 6 abilities, 2 characters, ATB that only builds when you're actively using one, and characters that are fucking 3 sheets to the wind all over the map, and you can see why that might become a bit of a fucking problem and headache, and by the time you get a meter build up, the combat's usually done. You're already, like, the fight's over. The only time that it ends up ever coming in is for really big enemies that aren't necessarily bosses, and bosses. And even then, I've only had them really pop off because of things that happen in combat. You can't just always be winning all the time. Shit goes wrong. Like, maybe 5 times. At best. And it's not efficient because at that point in the fight, your summon happens. Because summons happen after so much time has passed in a fight. When you get to use it. And the summon is usually, except for extreme bosses, 1 summon and that boss is fucking dead. Unless you misuse that boss is fucked. And so they have all these systems, but they're running cross-purpose with one another, and it doesn't allow you to appreciate all the good that the combat system has because of how they're trying to force your hand in the combat system. Whereas that's what I was saying with 16, is that they distilled all of that good shit and allowed you to still have, for example, an ally that you didn't control. You didn't have a choice to control them, really, in 16. But they were still useful. They did actual damage. They, honest to God, healed you. They were an active participant in battle. And so my solution, what I would have preferred them to do in this one, is something similar. Those two other allies maybe reduce the damage they do. They don't need to do full damage as if the player's playing them. But their ATB bar shouldn't be fucking cock hair creeping for like 5 minutes for 1 ATB meter to build, so that when I switch to them, I'm not like, the camera's not fucking doing like a million different things for me to build up meter, because they're actively building meter on their own. And then what happens? Well, every character in the game is their own archetype. Barret is ranged, Red is AoE close fast attacks, Tifa's high damage physical, and so when you're in a situation in a fight or a boss battle, you can choose your team. Who do you want to take into the fight? So now your selections of who's coming with you is less about who is less annoying to fucking manage in combat right now, which really comes down to use Barret, stand in the back and go, "Ah!" Because he builds ATB at Mach 4, which means you can use your summon ability every 0.2 fucking seconds, and then everyone else just fucking does the hump the doorknob shit in front of you, and that's the whole fight. Because doing anything else, you're just getting your ass kicked. So if they had done it that way, you still get to keep all the stuff that you have, but now players can choose strategically who's coming with them for actual strategic reasons, while also allowing you to be able to stick with the character in combat so you can appreciate those animations. You can do more of their abilities. You can use who you actually like in combat, because they all fight so differently. It's really unique and awesome. But if somebody likes somebody, they shouldn't be punished for wanting to use that character the majority of the time, which right now, that's what the game does. So like the combat looks really good, especially if you're watching it, but when you're playing it, oh boy, you don't get to enjoy it nearly as much. And the combat isn't really, it should be good, but it's, you know that meme where the person's riding the bike and they take the fucking stick and they fucking shove it in the back of the back wheel, and then the next frame is the guy laying on the ground going, "Oh, why would they do that to me?" That's basically its combat system. It's hamstringing itself. So that's why.
All right.
That's why I think that the combat is not all that great. It's obviously, if you like action more than ATB, easy. But the ATB is still there, and now you get to fight with all that other shit. That being said, Rebirth so far, I have enjoyed it more than Remake. It has been a better experience so far. Queen's Blood is a great card game. You know, it's definitely, I don't know if I like it as much as Triple Triad, but it's definitely a very interesting and fun game, little mini game to do. I still haven't gotten to the Golden Saucer. That apparently has got a whole bunch of shit going on in it. A lot of extra mini games that weren't in the original. And so I look forward to checking that out. But I agree, as a kid that played Final Fantasy VII, when you see Tifa on screen and those cannons are coming at you, shit hits different. It's true. The shit hits fucking different. And it looks good at the same time. It's very true. I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm gonna be 50 years old by the time you're done. I cannot wait to hear what your take is. Well, the thing is too is that the game systems are gonna be so fucking old by the time that you're playing this game that it's gonna feel antiquated anyway. Like which is its own thing. But there you go. There's your Final Fantasy VII discussion. And just like that, look at that. We've managed to get 45 minutes into a podcast with 0 items in segment 1. It's fucking magical. Other than that, I've got nothing else. Do you got anything else for games, Mr. Black? No.
Nothing, bro. Nothing. That's it.
Here
I do have
go.
patreon.com/legtv.
There it is.
Head on over there. Throw money at the screen. Or you can go check out our sponsor, NordVPN. If you guys don't already have a VPN service, you can click on the link in the description of this video, or if you're listening via RSS feeds, you can go to nordvpn.com/OTT. That promo code OTT should already be applied, so you don't have to put anything in there. When you get a 2-year subscription, guys, you get 4 extra months. You save huge, massive percentage off. And you get a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you don't like it for whatever reason, get your money back within 30 days, no questions asked. It's that simple. Guys, have anonymity on the internet. Watch different regions of Netflix and other streaming services at the click of a button. I'm traveling tomorrow. I'm going to be using my VPN the whole way through because that's what I do. And there are some things I'm watching on Netflix right now. I might just have to mask my IP back to Canada so I can watch some Netflix while I'm in the hotel, just in case the Canadian shows that I'm watching are not on the U.S. Region for Netflix. You can do these things with a VPN, specifically NordVPN. So head on over there and grab a subscription, guys. You can use it on your smartphone, your TV, your Mac, your PC, your laptop. They've got a desktop app. They've got it for everything, guys. Every house, or 1 in 3 households, have a VPN here in North America. They just do because they know what's up. It's 2024. Join the movement. And guys, it's less than half a cup of coffee at Starbucks a month. This isn't a big commitment. This is a smart commitment. Guys, protect your anonymity. Protect your stuff. Some internet thieves out there, and they're coming for you. Maybe. But be prepared. Be prepared. And that's it.
Oh, well, now it's time for
Movies and TV.
Jake Paul convinced Mike Tyson to fight.
I just heard about this. I mean,
listen, okay.
For one, it's an exhibition.
Yeah.
For 2, it's on Netflix.
Yeah.
And for 3, Mike Tyson is 57 years old.
Yes. Yeah.
I would say there's a high probability that Jake Paul will beat him simply on the basis that he's 57 years old. I don't care if it's Mike Tyson. I don't care if he's one of the scariest heavyweights of all time, if not, well, in his prime, the scariest heavyweight of all time. But it's Mike Tyson. Okay? It's Mike Tyson, and he's 57 against a young guy who is just beating up a whole bunch of fucking
old men,
soccer dads or old men. That's just it. That's just it. He had one fight against Tommy Fury.
Yeah.
where he actually fought somebody at his skill level. And I mean, Tommy's still a better technical boxer, but at least he got to say that he fought and he lost. That's the thing. He lost that fight because he fought somebody that was at his or in his realm. Guys, I'm going to keep it a buck. I'm going to ignore.
Is this the cold hard truth?
I'm going to ignore every single comment that says Mike Tyson has got a chance to knock out Jake Paul. Guys, it's not happening. I'm just going to keep it a buck. It's not happening. Okay? The Mike Tyson of old is now old. Okay? 57 years of age. He's pushing 60. 60. He hasn't had a professional fight in God knows how long. He had that exhibition that he did with Roy Jones. But I mean, even that, dude, was like watching two old men go in there and fucking, put on a show. Guys, it's a spectacle. It's a payday for Jake. It's a massive payday for Mike Tyson. It's something Netflix is going to put on there because they're getting into the sports and shit, the live stuff. Yeah. Sorry, guys. Mike Tyson. Do I think Mike Tyson is going to get knocked out cold? No. No, I don't. But we could see Mike Tyson get stopped. The ref might just say, okay, that's enough. Or he might just flat out just lose a decision simply from the fact that he's 57. Say what you want about Jake Paul. Okay, the guy has dedicated his life to boxing very clearly. He's got some of the best trainers in the world. He is active, although his activity is his competition is not very good, right?
Doesn't need to when you're making that money.
Correct. And every single big boxer out there, professional boxer, the first 10, 15 fights are usually fighting fucking cans, right? Jake Paul is no different. But the issue that people have with Jake Paul is out there pretending like he's doing something that is...
He's pretending he's beating these guys in their prime and not beating them when they haven't fought in fucking 20 years.
Correct. So what does Jake Paul do? He puts out a tweet here today, and he shows footage of Mike Tyson 4 years ago training.
Yeah.
Right? That looked good for at the time, 53-year-old.
I think that was at the time where he was just starting to train again, too, for some other fight that was supposed to happen. That didn't happen. Roy Jones. Yeah.
No, it did happen. It did happen. He fought.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he fought Roy Jones. It was an exhibition. And they both went super easy on each other, right? But, dude, this is not going to be sanctioned. This is not going to be a professional fight. This is a circus show. And that's that. Dude, I don't care what anybody says. All right? I really, truly don't. Mike Tyson is not going to knock out and starch Jake Paul. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. In fact, I don't even really... Is there always a puncher's chance? Okay. But he's 57. His speed, his cognitive abilities, the hunger. What's it going to be like when he gets into later rounds? What's the weight going to be at? What kind of bullshit clauses is there going to be? Jake Paul fights like fucking 2 weight divisions below heavyweight. Mike Tyson ain't a small man. I mean, it's going to be a circus freak. It's going to be a circus show. And unfortunately, I would say that there's a high probability you are going to watch Mike Tyson lose against Jake Paul. I'm like 95% sure that's how it's going to go. And then we're going to have to listen to Jake Paul say he took out one of the greatest of all time. Like he accomplished something. No.
So that is the worst part of all of it because it is an exhibition. And even if it wasn't, so like let's say that it wasn't and it was an actual sanctioned fight. and Jake Paul goes in. This is how I look at it, right? Jake Paul goes in. Jake Paul is basically at the prime of his entire life, age-wise. He's, like you said, he got the best trainers in the world.
Even. He's probably not even at his prime. He's still... dude, Jake Paul's like 25?
So he's got like... most athletes, 27 to 30 is like their peak years, right? That 3-year stretch for most athletes, unless they're freaks and they start early, then 27 to 30 is like their peak years.
Okay, he's 20. He's 27. He's 27.
Okay, so he's in it.
But he's still not even. The thing is, he's still young enough that like he can easily be boxing in 6 years and be a world champion.
Yeah.
If he stayed dedicated.
Yeah. I mean in terms of his fitness level.
World champion. Jake Paul
let's calm down.
Champion.
Yeah, no.
But I mean, but I'm saying
I know what you mean.
27-year-old. You know what I'm saying? Like yes, yeah.
But but physically, he's in the prime of his life. 27 years old. He's been training for a long time now. Really good trainers, like you said, dedicated himself. If you talk to anyone, he's at best mid-card boxer right now on a high end, which for somebody that started as late in the game as he did is impressive. But that's what money and the best trainers in the world and some halfway decent genetics will get you. And dedication, obviously. But like when you start that late, you got to have a number of things coming together to even get you to the mid-card, because you're fighting dudes who've been swinging since 6.
Yes.
And now they're 27. They got 21 years. They've been fighting grown men since they were teenagers. And you're just getting into this shit. It's a different ball game altogether. So that being said, like when, even if this wasn't an exhibition, Jake goes in and he wins. Congratulations, you beat a 60-year-old man. Jake goes in there and loses. Congratulations, you just lost to a 60-year-old man. In my mind, if I didn't have in my mind, what impresses me is that the level of mental gymnastics and ego that you have to have in order to even for promotional purposes, as Jake is clearly doing, continue to go out and say that he's taken out all these big fucking guns that are like dudes in their fucking 50s that haven't fought in ages and have fought 40,000 times more fights than he has in their time, is such an that's the worst part of it, because again, if you strip that ego out of there, it's you win, you beat a 60-year-old man. You lost to a 60-year-old man.
Bro, imagine Jake Paul against 1990 Mike Tyson. Motherfucker, you are dead. You're dead.
Everyone died.
Yeah, you wouldn't even get in the ring. You would this.
They wouldn't allow him.
Yeah, this fight is the only reason why it's happening is because he's 57.
And it's an exhibition.
And it's an exhibition.
Can I say my piece? I know you said you don't want to hear anything. Can I say my piece? Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul in the street. Jake Paul's folded like a lawn chair, cheap origami, and fucking thrown in the fucking garbage bin.
Oh, I agree.
Okay? The only reason that Jake has a chance, in my opinion, my uncultured, uneducated opinion, is that even at 57, Mike Tyson's a fucking goddamn killer. Mike Tyson has a mental game that is a different animal from everyone else. He's had it since he was a kid. When he turned on, like when you see him get interviewed several years back when he was just chilling, smoking more weed than fucking Snoop Dogg and chilling in an RV doing a podcast, and he's just overweight, whatever. He wasn't like obese, but he got softened up in his old age, hasn't been exercising. He talked about how he didn't really exercise much. And when he was asked, are you still fighting? Are you still in the gym? He said, I can't, because if I start hitting a punching bag, that fucking that part of my brain turns on again, and all of a sudden, I'm an asshole, I want to kill people, and the bad guy comes out, right? So my question to a degree is, even though I know it is, but is Mike Tyson capable of fighting an exhibition match? Is he capable?
He is. And I think he's capable because it's an exhibition. I think in his heart, he knows that this is, and he might even just admit it. This is for the money, and this
obviously,
is,
yes.
And we didn't even hear the details. Like there may be a no knockout clause.
Yeah.
They might have an agreement where it's like, we're going to go out there and basically hard spar. We're not going to go and try and kill each other. We don't know what size gloves they're using. We don't know if it's going to be 3 rounds, 5 rounds. There's no way Mike Tyson's going in there for 8 or 10 rounds. I really don't think. I think at 6, is probably going to be the max.
I don't think any legitimate fight versus Mike, even at 57 for a mid card, gets to 6 rounds.
Yeah.
I do have a fair amount of faith in a 57-year-old Mike Tyson if he was training for an actual fight. I have a fair amount of faith in Mike Tyson because of his mental game and the fact that he hasn't really fallen that far out of shape.
Yes, but if he's fighting another 57-year-old, you put Mike Tyson up against another guy his age, from his era, and you tell him to go fight, Mike's winning that fight.
Yeah.
He's winning that fight.
I'm not talking about him fighting a top card. We're not talking about him going out and fighting a top card heavyweight right now that's 27 years old. We're talking about him going out and fighting a mid card fighter on a high end. The difference, it's kind of like this, like in basketball, when there was I can't remember what the basketball player's name was, but he was basically a bench player. White dude, bench player in the NBA. And people always chirped him for how he had like no points, he only got to play a couple minutes a game or whatever the fuck, and comparing him to all these other guys on the floor ahead of him. And what he said, the difference between you and me and the guys that are playing ahead of me on the bench, I'm way closer to those guys than you are to me. That top 1 of 1%, you might be laughing because they're warming a bench for $250,000 a year, but motherfucker, that dude, you play him in basketball, is going to make you look like a fucking idiot, and he's a bum as far as the NBA is concerned, right? People talk about athletes like they're just bums because they're not shooting, they're hitting like 40-point games and shit. It's a different animal. Mike Tyson, even at 57, is the top 1 of the top 1% of fighters on the planet. Jake Paul is not in the top 1% of the fighters on the planet. I would say that the guys that are actively, legitimately fighting in the mid-card and a bit higher in real, I'm going to call it real boxing because Jake Paul is barely real boxing right now, except for that fight that you mentioned against Fury's brother.
Yeah.
That happened.
Or even Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva had some professional boxing experience. That was like a decent, but it was still it's still kind of amateurish, you know?
Yes,
it's not
the same thing.
It's not the same
right?
thing. And once again, he's fucking old. Silva's old, man. Even against the young Silva.
And he's soft as shit, dude. Can you imagine young Silva from early 2000s fighting Jake Paul? His head movement alone, he would have just sat there and fucking ducked and done
Jake would have got tired, and then Anderson would have destroyed him.
Anderson Silva,
Woodley,
dude,
Woodley,
yes,
him in his prime, he fought a fucking Tyron Woodley that lost his last like 6 fights, been knocked out cold, like fucking coma cold.
His chin's gone, bro.
Gone. And not only that, he became gun shy because
of course
he just was scared to get fucking laid out, and then you add on top of that. So yes, I agree with everything. I agree with everything that you're saying, bro. It's just,
but you know what? So we all know because it's an exhibition, right? And Jake Paul's track record and how these fights tend to go.
MMA, whoa! MMA hands will never beat a boxer, guys. Come on, did you not watch Francis Ngannou versus Fury?
Yeah,
he won that fight, man.
Yeah, don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted.
Is fighting AJ tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I think he's gonna get it done,
bro.
I think he's gonna get it done. Bro.
And you know what? Who's training Francis Ngannou right now?
Mike Tyson.
Mike fucking Tyson.
Well, he's one of the trainers. He's not the
obviously
main
not the only one, but yeah.
Yes, but he's in there.
Yes,
he's in there.
Right. So like, listen. It's. I wish this fight was sanctioned. It would never be because of his age, and I get that. You got to be concerned for Mike's health. At 57, even if it's Mike Tyson, you gotta, like, you get to a certain age, you gotta be careful.
Yeah, you can't do it. You can't.
Right, you can't be doing it. But in all honesty, anyone in my mind that thinks that in an actual fight that Mike Tyson trained for wouldn't fucking destroy Jake Paul. Jake Paul might actually die. I don't know if Jake is capable of protecting himself enough to stop that punch.
Adam, let's keep it a buck. You lock Jake Paul and Mike Tyson in a room and say one person leaves, Mike is walking out of that room.
He's leaving that room every time.
Every single time. Only one can live.
Yes.
Only one. That animal is gonna kill Jake at 57. He'd kill him at 65. Bro.
Yes, yeah. Because here's what I think about too. Just to talk about the point a bit more about age. 57 now is not 57 in 1985.
No.
We're at a different level of sports science and health that we didn't have 40 years ago. Like, if you look at, like, interviews with dudes who were, like, 33 years old in 1955, they look like they're 80. We're a different breed of human because we ain't smoking as much. Our nutrition is better. The athletes are different.
The healthcare, everything. It's just everything.
I watched a 366-pound, 6'4" individual in the NFL Combine. I'm gonna say it one more time. 366-pound, 6'4", run 40 yards in 5 seconds. That is a goddamn freight train. His titties were attacking himself. In the meanwhile, he's running and he's getting fucking clapped in the face by his own man tits because he's 366 pounds. It don't matter. He ran it in 5 seconds. That's like running the 100 meter if he could keep that pace in 12 and a half, 13 seconds.
That's
which is
crazy.
At 366 pounds.
Bro, I couldn't run it at 100.
We're training. We're training, honest to God, like Coliseum killers in sports now. Different animal. And Mike was about that game when he was in his prime. He took care of his body. That man is in... 57-year-old Mike Tyson's fucking insane, but I think about this too. I just watched Sting, the wrestler. You know who Sting is, obviously.
Of course.
He just did his last match this week. And he had both of his sons were there. Both of his sons, by the way, look exactly like their fucking father. It's kind of insane.
One does.
One especially. Yeah. The one that wore the NWO
with
red black.
Red? Yeah,
he just jumped out of the fucking ring, by the way, bro. Did you see that splash?
I thought that was Sting. I saw a highlight. I'm like, God damn, he looks good, man. What the fuck? Is this guy like 60 years old? Oh, it's your son. Oh, okay. Yeah, it makes sense.
Makes sense. That dude almost jumped out the goddamn ring. But, dude, I watched Sting is 64.
Okay.
He's been wrestling in 5 different decades. That man has been wrestling on the lead card, not in like little exhibition memes. He has been full-blown wrestling, and anyone that's been in wrestling will tell you, your body gets fucked in wrestling almost harder than any other thing that you could do, especially across 5 decades. I watched that man get put through a goddamn pane of glass on TV at 64 years of age and still doing a lot of his moves at 64. We're a different species than we were 50, 60 years ago. I think of my own father, who's not an athlete. He's 73. And he's still stronger than with more endurance than I have at 73. We're different people. It's crazy. So when I think, 57 in my head, I'm thinking, yeah, that's old. And to be getting hit in the head with boxing gloves, that's dangerous. 100%. Yeah. But there is no actual universe. Doctor Strange doing fucking American Sign Language to find the universe in which there's the probability of Jake Paul beating a 57. It's actually 0.
Outside of the ring. But with boxing rules?
I still think if it was not an exhibition, I still think Tyson wins. Because he gets to treat it not like an exhibition, but he has to actually take it seriously.
I don't. I just think Jake is just, as much as I want to hate on the guy, he's just been training too much. He's just too young. He's too hungry. He's gonna cook the weights, the clauses. Everything will be in this guy's favor because he's quote unquote the A side.
If it was a real fight, don't you think Jake would be a little fucking scared?
No, because I think
you don't think he's intimidated by fighting a Tyson.
I think he's gonna feel a little intimidated when they square off and they stare each other in the eyes, and then he realizes like, holy fuck, this is Mike Tyson. But also the amount of people that he trains with, he knows Mike Tyson. They've hung out. He's been on their podcast. I'm sure they've trained together in some capacity. He knows what he's getting himself into, and he wouldn't have taken the fight if he didn't have the confidence that he would win. Yeah. But with that being said, there's still an aura He's never been in a fight with him. You know, like, hey, Mike Tyson's reputation's on the line. Jake Paul's reputation's on the line. It really depends also is what kind of version of Mike Tyson are we going to get? Yeah. Is he going to go, okay, I'm hearing everybody tell me, you know, you cannot lose to Jake Paul. You can't do this. You can't do that. If Mike, you know, gets heavy on the juice, if he's gets that that animal in him and he just takes it to Jake Paul and he is willing to get knocked the fuck out and he just says, fuck it. I'm going to go in and I'm going to do, you know, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to put Jake on his back foot and this shit, I'm either going down or Jake is dead. There is a small chance. And it would also have to depend on if Jake Paul gets overwhelmed in the moment. Like, oh my God, this is Mike Tyson. And I am standing in front of a boxing
he might not
god.
get that until he walks into the ring and he looks across and goes, fuck, that's Mike Tyson.
But I'm sure Jake trains with some pretty nasty dudes, younger guys that hit harder than Mike Tyson. Let's keep it a buck, man. Even at the end of Mike Tyson's career, he was not the Mike Tyson of old.
No,
now
of course.
we're talking decades now, pretty much, you know. Still a scary dude. Mike Tyson still to this day will intimidate any man. Any man on the street would be a fool, an absolute fool to test Mike.
A dead fool.
And not only that, Mike will fight. He will fucking fight.
He will fight. Yeah, he will. That's the difference. He will.
He will fucking fight. You disrespect him, he'll fucking fight you. He don't give a fuck. It's Mike Tyson. And you better pray to God that something doesn't click and he goes right back into that animalistic, I'm going to fucking kill you. It's kill or be killed. You're in trouble. But once again, he's 57. Jake's 27.
Yeah.
27 against
30
the 57.
30 years.
30 fucking years, bro. 30 years. And if this was Jake Paul of 3 or 4 years ago, I'd say, okay, Mike Tyson's going to beat him. It's too much training. They're going to train specifically to fight and defeat Mike Tyson. Don't get me wrong. I pray to the gods that Mike Tyson starches him. Fucking goes in there and fucking kills that motherfucker. Not like actual death, but fucks him up.
Yeah.
To the point where the whole fucking charade goes away. You lost to a 57-year-old. And it don't matter if it's Mike Tyson or not. Get fucked on. This dumb fuck wants to fight Canelo.
What?
He's been calling out Canelo all the time.
He's only doing that because there's no way Canelo's going to fight him.
Because there's no way Canelo's going to fight him. What the fuck? I'm Canelo. What the fuck?
That's like dudes calling out Eminem for a diss track and M's just sitting there going, who?
Yeah, exactly. It's worse. It's even worse than that. It's even worse. Dude, Canelo, Jake Paul would die. Like, actual die. Like, there wouldn't even, I don't even think Jake would hit him. It would be death. Now imagine Mike Tyson against the Canelo. How's that going to go? Even though Canelo's fucking half his goddamn size. Canelo's going to tee him up, bro.
Oh, of course.
It's the youth. It's the skill. Fortunately, what Mike's got over Jake is boxing skill and technicals. He's a better boxer by far. Yeah. By far. But Father Time, bro, 30 years, his less punching power, less of everything. As long as Jake Paul survives and drags it out, I just don't see Mike Tyson winning this. I just don't. But we'll see.
Oh, God, wouldn't it be the greatest thing? Wouldn't it just be the wouldn't it just be, though?
Oh, my
Which is why this is going to make so much money, is because everyone wants to see Jake Paul get starched by Mike Tyson. That's why.
Geez, bro.
That's why.
I just in 3 weeks' time, I just want to see training videos of Mike Tyson going ham in sparring on the juiced up to the fucking gillies. Because you know Jake's head grew about.
Dude, he's on so much HGH.
Bro.
He's got that Joe Rogan head now, where Joe Rogan's head went from like normal to like a refrigerator block head.
Yeah, like a fucking bobble head. Just like fucking. He's got a bigger target. I mean, fuck. But I mean, dude, God only knows. There might not even be any testing. It's an exhibition. Dude, this could be like go juice up.
Dude, Tyson's got the genetics that like if you saw Tyson at 15, you know that man is running way more testosterone naturally than most individuals are by a default.
For sure.
So, like in my mind, honestly, Mike could probably just be on replacement therapy for T and still be fucking just yoked.
Yep.
It would be a recovery thing. At 57, it's not strength. Like, there's lots of strong old men. Like, strength is one of the last things to go in an old man. It's recovery time is where the roids would get him back in.
Your cognitive abilities too, right? Your reflexes, how fast, like this all matters in boxing, right? Because
of course.
It's the sweet science, right? Mike is going to be slower. You know what I mean? He's just going to be a slower version.
But is he so slow that even Jake catching him?
Yeah, I think so.
Or do you think Mike is? Well, here's the thing. Like Mike Styles, like Mike is willing to take
knocked out.
Now he's willing to
get knocked out.
Mike's willing to take a punch. Mike comes in like this, and he goes inside, and he says, "Hit me, so I can hit you. Please swing."
Yes, he's a counter. He's a counterpuncher.
He's a counterpuncher. Yeah. Please swing so that I have an opening to hit you in the jaw with some weird in a shit that in a street fight nobody would think to do, like this weird fucking like over the top
so much
shit.
Power that it don't matter where it hits.
It just fucking kills you.
It's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt. So I mean, we'll see. Well, I mean, we'll see. I just think there's a 95% chance the age is too much.
I'm with you.
It is what it is. But my God, please, that 5%,
please make my whole year. Please.
Oh my God. Can you imagine the old guy, out of all the old guys that he fought?
I mean, he would be the one
that came in and said, guys, let Daddy come in here and take care of this. All right.
Yeah.
Let me get rid of this shit.
Yeah. That's how I look at it too. I'm like, how much in the back of Mike's mind, middle of the fight, even if he knows it's an exhibition, at one point in the middle of the fight, does some part of the ring go, you know what? Fuck it.
I got nothing to lose. This could be his last. It will be his last hoorah, his last glory. So if he's got it in him, and he goes all out.
Like, what's the worst he's gonna lose? Are we gonna lose the purse? He's already like a million bajillionaire.
He's got a guaranteed. He's getting a guaranteed paycheck, dude. They're gonna pay him tens of millions of dollars.
Yes.
We're not talking 2 or 3 million. He's gonna get like $20 million.
Yeah.
Because he ain't doing this shit unless they're dropping a massive bag.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, he's getting paid more than Jake Paul. I guarantee.
Has to be. I
guarantee it.
Otherwise, there's just no way you could convince him to do it.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Next up, did you see The Last of Love Is Blind, or are you falling behind?
Oh, of course I saw it, man.
Okay, all right, okay. All right.
Blind.
Do we want to talk about a little Love Is Blind?
A little bit of Love Is Blind going on there. It went how I thought it was gonna go. I thought I knew that the
You weren't a little surprised that Clay backed out at the last second?
I wasn't surprised. I thought that they were gonna get married, and I think Clay thought they were gonna get married. I think Clay's problem is he is so traumatized.
He's got some big daddy issues
by his parents and like what his dad specifically that he second guesses everything, and he is like, and you can tell he wants to be married. He wants to commit. He wants to do these things. He says a lot of the right things, but the problem is, he just cannot get over. He's just not ready to be married. He needs help. Like, he needs to see a fucking psychiatrist. He needs therapy. He needs to figure things out with his family, and he needs to take care of that before he can ever get married, because he's just
And the shittiest part is that AD had to be the bridge to get him over those waters, to have him realize that he needs to have all that shit done. Yeah. That's the shittiest part. And this happens a lot in relationships, is that somebody will get in a relationship with somebody that desperately needs all those things. They haven't realized it yet. You get into it, you fight with them and for them for long periods of time, and then it falls apart, and then the next person they're with, they're a bundle of fucking roses and sunshine and happiness, and you're sitting there haggard as fuck. The other person there going, what the fuck? And that's going to be AD, because if AD goes back to that, I mean,
no,
shit.
I don't think. What I think is going to happen is, because the reunion's next week.
Oh my god.
What? It comes out next
Yeah.
week. It's a reunion.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like a new reunion. So we're gonna get all the tea. And apparently there's a whole bunch of tea.
Oh, there's
Like,
probably some stupid crazy shit.
tons of tea.
Crazy shit.
But I think what's gonna happen, we're gonna find out, is I think that that after the show,
Mhm.
they still dated for a little bit and then they ended up breaking up. I think
Yeah.
that's what we're gonna hear, but I
Yeah.
don't know. So yeah, I felt bad for AD, but at the same time, Clay pretty much every 30 minutes told her, like, I'm scared I'm gonna cheat.
Oh,
You know,
from the pods, bro.
from ever since, like, he just kept saying it, cheating. And it's because his dad took him out on cheating fucking excursions and fucking went and
That's
and,
his model,
and his mom,
which found out
mom
during
didn't
the
even know.
show.
Found out during the show. 'Cause he's like, well, I just kind of said this on national TV. I ought to tell my mom about all the trauma that I went through. And now the mom's like, oh, fuck. So she's going through it. Now she understands the position that Clay's in. Then the dad's there. That I think, honestly, I could be wrong, but I think Clay went that day to get married. And when he told her at the end, it was like, it was game time. It was like the last, it was, you know, because a lot of times people will say that it was right down to the last minute. It was right down to the last minute. It was right there. A lot of the times they already know.
Yeah.
A lot of times they already know. I actually believe that Clay is the type of guy that
It would actually
last
be.
minute,
Yeah.
he said, oh, I can't. Because when he talked to his dad, and his dad was spewing off a whole bunch. Dude, even the way that these guys talk, it's all about sports. And it's all these sports lingos.
Well, they're not.
And all
It's not a dad-son relationship. It's a friend relationship. The way they talk to each other, it's like they're friends. It's not father-son, right? And everything this dad was talking about, it was everything he was talking about. He was like skirting around what he himself did. And so, how does that look to Clay sitting there at his wedding day? His dad shows up and starts spewing all this like half-assed like friggin', you know, therapy type shit at him, which he said in the interview was like, Dad literally never fucking talks like this ever. And in fairness, wedding day, if that's the day to do it, that would be the day to fucking do it.
He still didn't even say all the stuff that he should have said.
Exactly.
He should have said, son, I fucked up. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. But I know you can. You're a better man than I am. If he would have said all these things like, I messed up, you know, and he admitted to his mistakes. He says that, hey, this is my issues. Even AD's mom was like, God, like, bro, you are not your parents, man. Stop. You do not have to you do not have to think that way. But no, he didn't get like any closure. It was just more of like, just more shit. And I truly believe that. And even when they were saying their vows and she was like pouring her heart out to him, he was like, I think in that moment too, he's like, man, maybe I should get married. And then and then when it's his turn to speak,
you can see it in his eyes, bro.
Everything just changed. He's like, oh my God, what do I do? And then boom. And then afterwards, you could tell he felt bad. And I don't even think he understood how much of a big deal marriage really truly is. And because everybody's like, oh my God. And he's like a deer in the headlights. Like, I just want to leave. I don't know. Like, I'm so uncomfortable. I didn't realize it was going to be like this. And the thing is, like, dude, I'm like, Clay, I'm yelling. I'm like, Clay, she told you, don't do this. Don't go to the aisle with her and then say no. Don't. If it's like, motherfucker, nigga, what are you doing? That's what I was saying. I was screaming at the screen. Nigga, no. No, don't. Stop. My God. Bro, you're fucking up. I mean, man, if you would have just done what Jimmy did and just told her, no, it ain't happening, bro. And they would have never have had that big wedding thing where all the family comes together and the bachelor party and all this other. You fucking sold her a dream, man. She thought y'all were about to get married, bro. And she's a woman, man. She's dreamed about this. You can't, even though, like, you may not have dreamed about this because your parents got divorced and you have this big, maybe he probably even told himself, I ain't never getting married, bro. Even his even his boy that he's with all the time.
Yeah.
You know, they even made comments throughout the show of like, yeah, man, like you gonna be, you know, it's over now. Like, you know, the dream team. I even think they said dream team at one point. The dream team is done. You can tell these guys go out and fuck many chicks.
Running game.
Do whatever, right?
Yeah.
And you know, he wasn't ready. But he wants to. You can tell he wants to be, but he's just not there, bro. I felt for everybody involved. I felt bad for him. I felt worse for AD. I felt bad for their family. I felt bad for his mom. I'm like, man, god damn.
Dude, his mom, well, first of all, his mom held it together because she's on camera. That mom was ready to kill people.
Oh.
She was ready to drag his father across the lawn and beat him on national television. She was, because she found out, like you said, she found out about dad bringing Clay out when he's a kid on these cheating excursions, which is fucking nutty. And that was apparently 7 years into the marriage. They were married for 20 plus years. And so that means there's 15 plus years of this shit going down. And when you hear the dad talk, he's still talking like he's one of the boys. He's not talking like a man. He's not talking like a father. And he doesn't admit to anything. And he's still, when he's talking to the mom, when they're standing at the barrel there, you know, after everything had happened, and he's talking to this woman like nothing ever fucking happened. It was wild to me. He was just engaging. I think in his mind he knew he was just trying to get her to soften up, but like he knows that but he never wants to admit it to himself. I think he's got some serious mental gymnastics going on to have that work. But when she stopped,
extremely guilty too. He probably feels so much guilt, like as well, like deep
and
down,
then she stopped him and said, you know what you're talking about, fine, but you didn't treat me right at all, and we're gonna stop talking about this now. And he can't say anything. He's got to take it. He's got to take it. And there's nothing. And
he's
so
lucky that's all. He's lucky that's all he had to take.
And she dropped it on him. He was talking about when he's like, he's dabbing up Clay, like, come here, son. Doesn't matter what, you know, I still love you. Everything's fine. Everything's all good. You know, it's whatever. I loved you when you were born. I love you now. And he had no real words of anything. He has to acknowledge that he's honestly the vast majority of why this whole thing came to be. And then he doesn't apologize to the mom, doesn't apologize to Clay. And then when his mom says, you gotta go to him, and you gotta clear this up, because if you don't, he's never gonna be able to pull the trigger on marriage, ever. He's going to be stuck like this, tormented.
He's going to do this to another woman.
Yes.
That's the other thing, is he's fucking with people's emotions.
Somebody else's lives, bro.
Of the trauma of what he's gone through. And he wants to do it. And so he leads on AD pretty much the whole time. And she's like dealing with all of it. Oh man, I felt so bad. And
I did.
Mom and I'm like, my God, man, this is just.
You know what? I felt so bad for AD, and I can't believe Clay did that shit, because Clay found a girl that would have like ride or die for that dude for sure, and he fucked it up. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, you know what? Too. Is that, like you were saying, how many times did he bring that shit up to AD and she brushed it off? And when they were in the pods and he admitted he's a playboy, he's got all these issues and whatnot, and she did this solo interview on camera and said, I'm red flags don't mean nothing, I got red bottom shoes. And and she
signed up for it.
She's the I can fix him girl.
Yes.
That goes out and does that, and she thought she had pulled it off. She thought that she had pulled it off because she sees it. He's got money. He's got good looks. I can fix him. And then because if he opened that door and that dude came out looking like a thumb, she might have been on board for a short time.
No,
but then
he was done, bro.
Done.
After the honeymoon thing that they did, where they go out to the fucking thing, that would have been it. That'd have been the show. But he's a good-looking cat, her type. Smooth talker. He's got riz for days. He's an athlete. He's got money. He's got his own businesses. He's not a he's not like a fucking bum that she needs to, pay for everything, do all this shit.
Dude, he brought up her finances in the solo interview, and I went,
I know.
What are you talking? Why?
I know.
Why are you even bringing that up?
Bro,
and then, but when he talked to her, and that's what made me turn on him. Because I only sympathize with him so much. Right? He's had a million opportunities. His mom is clearly been helping him a lot. AD's mom been helping him a lot. AD helping him a lot. He's been talking nothing about how every interview is the same. He says the same things over and over again and whatnot, which was a bit of a fucking red flag for me, because I'm thinking he's just saying the shit that he thinks that the camera wants to fucking hear and that he kind of wants to hear him say himself, but he don't believe any, because he's convincing himself live in real time as he's saying these things. Because when you go back and you watch him at the end there, every time he engages with AD after he says no at the altar, he doesn't mention anything except for, oh, it's my fault, I have these issues, I'm gonna fight, I'm gonna get therapy, and blah yada yada blah blah blah. And then it cuts to him probably 30, 45 minutes earlier, standing outside, or later, standing outside giving the interview, and he's not talking about anything but, like, you know, I just thought about it, I just couldn't see himself ready for marriage yet. You know, we don't talk about it very much, but, you know, there's like the finance portion and all this other stuff, and talking about her money. Out of nowhere, first time he ever mentioned money on camera ever was that fucking moment, which told me in my mind, I said, this dude from day one had some shit that he was turned off on, and he just ran that shit. And so I didn't fucking feel sorry for him really at that point. After that interview, I said, nah, that dude's a fucking bum.
Yeah, you know, I those post interviews are, you know, I find them, people are in a very emotional, like, there's
sure,
I couldn't imagine, like, you know, I got married and, like, you know,
but when you're under the gun and you're by yourself and there's no, and the person that you're talking, they're not there, and then you see the interactions.
Yeah. But we also don't see the full interviews. We don't know what they cut. We don't know what they ask him.
Sure.
There's a lot of, with these shows, there's a lot of softball questions where they almost set you up to say certain things, cut certain things. So I give him a little bit of grace, but I agree.
Yeah.
Some of the things that he was saying towards the end, it's almost like he started to reveal a little bit of his true,
what he's actually thinking.
It's almost like he was letting his guard down a little bit more and not as calculated with what he's saying.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I still truly believe he wanted it to work, but that he just wasn't ready for it. And I think the trauma of all of the shit just added to the inevitability that I think in his heart he knew he was never going to get married. But he was almost pretending like, you know what? I'm going to see this whole experience through. Maybe I'll have some enough growth that I can, you know, I'll get to the altar and I can say yes. And I think that there were probably points where he believed that they were going to get married, and then, you know, something gets whatever. And who knows, bro? This reunion is going to be juicy because, you know, there's going to be some shit that's going to come out. You just know it. Then the other guy, so the big black dude that was they cut it off early. The weird black guy that was like, wouldn't show any affection.
The teacher, the principal or whatever.
The teacher. Yeah. So a bunch of shit came out about him. So apparently, rumor is he's gay, and he's not actually. He's a principal, but he's a principal at like a charter school that like is very. I was gonna say, because
for his age, that's really young to be a principal.
He's not a principal at like an elementary or a high school or anything like that. It's a very specific type of chartered thing that's going on. And apparently there's like a lot of rumors around that like he's gay. And we don't know. I mean, the reunion's coming, and because Kayla's all about this shit. I watch the show. I don't go on
do this. So
media.
no, neither do I.
I don't look up any other, you know,
stories. Em does that too. She goes and looks up like stories and shit. Yeah. But I just watch the show. I'm in it for the show. Yeah.
That's it too, man. I'm in it for the show. Watch the reunion, then they're dead to me. I don't even remember them the fucking next year, right?
No.
Whatever. It's just entertainment. But yeah, apparently with that guy, there's some drama around him. And then the other dude that Chelsea didn't pick, you know, the bigger stocky guy.
Yeah.
So apparently he had a girlfriend the entire time, and she was in on it. So the girlfriend knew. He went there apparently to get clout, and then when he got home, he ended up breaking up with her, and then she went public about their agreement and how they were all in on this. And there's a whole bunch of slew of dirt that we're probably going to hear on the reunion about that guy.
What?
Yeah. So
that dude got weird too. There was a couple of people in there that got weird. You have to be a certain kind of person to take on this show anyway. But like that dude got weird when it was like the pool party or whatever, and he was just like trying so hard to convince this chick to just leave that dude. And it was just so fucking awkward.
But it makes sense. It makes sense that he was doing it for the clout because the way he started getting really, like he started really pushing it. Aggressive.
Yeah.
But I mean, he dodged the bullet anyway, and she did. But going to Chelsea, I'm so happy. What's his face? Just
dude. When I watched him do that, I said, "Oh, thank God." I mean, first in my mind, I thought, "Now, don't fuck me. Don't fuck with me again here. Don't tell her this." And then halfway through the conversation, flip into reverse and fucking back out of it. He committed.
Set her up. He set her up. He said, "So do you see us getting married?" And she's like, she hummed and hawed a bit. She kind of made it seem like, and she was like, "Well, I had a rough time. I've had a rough go, and same with you.
Same with you." She always does. It's never just her. It's always like,
jeez. And then he goes, and then she was like, "Yeah, I can really see it. It's been great." And he goes, "Okay, yeah, because I don't. It's over." And she's stun locked, right? And then she starts getting really defensive. And then she's like, "Well, what, over one thing?" He's like, "No, it's not just one thing." And she's and then she was like, "Well, you do.
You called me clingy."
Yeah, you called me. Well, bitch, you is clingy. You was clingy as hell. She's like, "You didn't want to have sex with me. You didn't want to have sex." And then she brought up the friend again. "You fucked her."
Yeah, exactly.
You did. He's like, "I told you that in confidence, and you put her business out on national TV when I told you not to." "Well, my feelings," right? And she was going off, right? And then she's got an ex who she's still in contact with. And the moment they get out, he's the first person that she FaceTimes when they get out the house.
Yeah, she's doing the same shit.
She's doing the same, bro. When he told her no, and then she started bitching some more.
And he's just sitting there calm.
He's always just taking it, right? And he's just sitting there, he's letting her get it off. And then she's like, "Every time I tell you something, you always blow up." And he's like, give me an example.
When?
He actually did that. He goes,
"Yeah,
give me an example." She couldn't do it. She didn't have one. She didn't have one. And then she starts going again, and he goes, "Yeah, you know what? Thank you. You're making my decision even easier.
Yeah, even easier.
You're proving. I think he said you're proving that I'm making the right decision right now."
Yeah.
Just keep going.
Yeah. Oh, just keep doing it.
She just kept yapping. And kept yapping and kept yapping and yapping some more. And he just sat there until eventually she realized, "Oh my God, he ain't breaking this time."
Nah.
And she just got up and she left and she cried and she stuck around in hopes that maybe he'd go, "Okay, well, no, not this time, bitch. Bye-bye." And that's the last time we saw them two. Oh,
yes.
It was fantastic.
Oh, it was.
Fantastic. And the reunion's going to be juicy.
Thank God. Do you think they're going to be there, those two?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
Oh yeah. I do. I think that Jessica's going to be there too, or whatever her name is.
Oh shit. Yeah, Jess or whatever the fuck.
She's definitely going to be there. She's definitely going to be there. So. And she's the most famous out of all of them. On all social media. She would be. She got the most followers, the most everything, and she wasn't even in the last half of the season.
Well, she's like the stereotypical, like, she's got a little plastic surgery. She's got that look right now. She's an attractive girl. She had the sap story. The guy picked the wrong girl. Yada yada yada. So that's all. That is a recipe for social media clout.
Yeah.
100%.
And then the other two. I mean, I knew they were gonna get married. Right.
Yeah.
They just seemed like they were going to work.
They were they were as close to a normal pair of human beings that the show had in general.
Yeah.
And so when I watched it, it was like, they're going to get married.
I liked them too. I thought that they were like, I liked how he was stepping up and he was concerned about their future. And she's like more living in the moment. I know there was a lot of talk about kids and birth control and this and that.
Yeah.
But what I enjoyed about him is he has his values and his principles, and he basically had some non-negotiables. and he stuck to them.
Yep.
And she had some non-negotiables,
Yep.
and she stuck to them. But then there were things that they met in the middle, and they worked it out. And can we take a second here? But her dad is awesome.
Her dad is awesome.
Her dad is
honestly
awesome,
a lot of the parents like AD, like AD's mom, motivational speaker,
dude,
fucking Clay's mom. Like a lot of the parents were like
legit parents, man.
Yes, yeah.
Legit parents. And the dad, the way that he spoke about her, I was my God, man.
Bro.
Like, I'm like, Jesus, man.
He kind of came across as a mob boss a little bit. You know what I mean? He had like a little mob boss, but like a soft mob boss vibe. But like he's definitely a dad. He might actually kill somebody for his daughter, but he's
he would. 100%. I mean, who wouldn't? You know what I mean? Like, I mean,
but yeah, he the way he talked is true. He seems like a really good dude. He was level-headed about it. He was skeptical. I think any normal person would be skeptical about their child going on a show in which all of this unfolds this way. But he seemed to be comfortable with this guy and saw his daughter happy. And then at that point, he's like, well, what the fuck am I going to do?
That's it.
I just got to go along. I'm along for the ride now.
That's it. Welcome to the family. So I thought that was good. It was probably one of the better couples that I've ever seen on any of these shows. There was little to no drama. Like, I don't remember them like fighting or fighting.
They tried to they tried to edit like the birth control thing as being a bigger problem than it probably was between the two of them. But then that went away and they had nothing else. They were just there.
Yeah, they were just there. Then they were enjoying each other. They couldn't keep their hands off each other. They just everything just seemed sincere. And like, while there was just drama filled
everywhere,
everybody else, they were just the calm in the storm. They were like the ones that I knew pretty much since the beginning. That was funny
because like none of the other guys or girls really went to them to be like, what's, you know, to like talk to them. Like they were literally on an island by themselves. Like nobody approached them to be like,
because
hey,
drama attracts drama, and they were out of the drama. They were just watching everybody else is crazy.
That's true.
And realizing how good that they have it, you know, in comparison to everybody else, bro. Because all the drama, they just interacted with other drama.
That's it. Yeah,
that was
because then they can feel a bit better about their own situation.
Correct. If they go to somebody that has it all together, suddenly they start feeling insecure about what they have, right? So why not go talk to other crazies so you don't seem as crazy?
Exactly.
But yeah, no. Overall, I enjoyed the season, man. It was a good season. The reunion next week, I'm sure. We'll talk about that because that's probably spice. That's
for sure. Speaking of spice, Dune 2.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna make it quick.
The spoiler-free review from Mr. Black.
Spoiler-free. Absolutely. No spoilers. None. I don't even know where to start. But all I'm gonna say is, Adam, you have to.
I'm going to see it in theater. Oh yeah, 100%. In IMAX. Yeah.
If you don't,
oh no, we're going.
I'm putting in my recognition of our friendship. Podcast will be canceled. There will be no more because Adam,
we're going,
you, bro. Adam, bro. This movie is crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy how good this is, bro. It is the best parts of Game of Thrones. The absolute peak. Best parts. We're talking Red Wedding. We're talking did I say recognition? My resignation.
Resignation.
Whatever.
Yes.
You know what it is.
I got you. I didn't correct you because I knew what you meant.
Thank you. Bro, this movie, this ain't even a movie, bro. This is, well, it's a movie, but it's an experience. This is like, it's hard to put into words. Like, I'm going to go see this again next week when I get back from Miami. I'm going to IMAX again. Or I might go to Dolby, because they have one out in Dartmouth. But dude, I can't stop thinking about this movie. Like, this ain't Avatar, bro. This ain't...
Bro, fuck Avatar. I just gotta be honest with you.
All right.
Fuck Avatar.
Okay, fuck Avatar.
Yeah,
you know what? I'm in the camp of fuck Avatar now.
Yeah, okay, all right.
now is like, bro, what this achievement is, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. You know, when my dad grew up, he told me, and he's the one that got me into Star Wars, and he told me what it was like to go to the theater and watch Star Wars for the first time.
Which without the internet is a totally different animal on top of that, right? Like, that's a cultural, like, cornerstone thing, the Star Wars phenomenon, yeah.
So for me, my Star Wars was Lord of the Rings, right? So we go to the theater, we see Lord of the Rings. I'm at that age now where it's like I can appreciate it. I'm like a teenager or whatever when those things came out. This is an experience, bro. This is like, I don't know how they did this. I don't know. I really don't know, and I don't care. But I do know that it is top 3. In my opinion, in my lifetime, it is number 1 cinematic achievement ever put to the screen. It's not close. Like, I when I use things like Lord of the Rings, I understand how epic, how dense, how cinematic changing the Lord of the Rings was. Dune Part 2 is that, but now. And it's like, if you liked Dune Part 1, you're going to absolutely adore Part 2. It is everything that Part 1 was, except infinitely better. And that's crazy because Dune Part 1 is incredible, but it is slow. And there's not a lot of action in Dune 1. There is some. And the action really isn't the best action I've ever seen. I'm talking Dune Part 1. Dune Part 2, it's on such another scale that it's hard to... I'm having a hard time finding the words to put into this. Ever since the first shot to the very last, it's like watching art. It is art, but like high fantasy, highbrow, high thought-provoking. It's such a pretentious, like, almost, it's just perfect.
It looks pretentious, but it's not presented pretentiously.
But it's not Thank you. It doesn't come off pretentious.
What's his name? Like, is this Dennis? Is this Dennis?
Denis
Villeneuve?
Yeah, Villeneuve.
Yeah. I don't know how to pronounce it, but
my God,
if you look at all of his movies, he has a modus operandi, right? And he mentioned it in an interview recently I read, and I found it particularly interesting. But it makes sense as soon as you watch any of his films, as he said, you know, and this is just like a loose, this is not the direct quote, but this was basically what he was saying, was that, well, when he watches movies, and he believes that when most people watch movies, they don't tend to remember dialogue. They don't remember, you know, that stuff. They remember shots. They remember scenes. Yep. Visual sticks longer. And so when you hear him say that, and then you go back and you look at what he's done between, you know, he did 2049, right? So he did Blade Runner 2049, and now he's gone on, he's doing
Prisoners, he did Arrivals.
Yeah.
He did, dude, his filmography is insane.
And if you look at all of them, they're all like that. You know, it's not that they have bad dialogue or they have bad acting or anything like that, but you can clearly tell that his primary concern is the cinematography or the shots, the art. What am I seeing? What am I putting on screen here? When you see these drawn back shots from 2049, the famous one with the girl, the hollow image girl, and Ryan Gosling standing on the fucking that is a shot.
Yeah.
When you see Dune 1 and you see the big ass ship coming in for the first time, and you get a sense of scale, as I've mentioned before, that like no ship in a sci-fi on camera I've ever seen before. So he does scale. He does scale on film better than anyone I've ever seen. The only thing that I've seen that has matched the sense of scale on camera or in film was the black hole scene in Interstellar, in terms of the feeling of the scale, the immensity of that.
So that feeling that you had, in that, because I felt it too, and we've talked about that
because it's never gonna leave my mind. Yeah,
dude, this movie, it's that for 2 hours and 45 minutes. It's fucking crazy.
How much did this movie cost to make, bro?
It was only like $180 million.
What?
He put all of it on the screen, bro.
What?
Every ounce.
What?
Dude, I'm telling you.
So is this a thing where like Timothy and cast are not asking? They're not asking for a lot of money.
They're working with a god, bro. People are gonna win Oscars. They're gonna win everything. Everything is theirs, and it's at the beginning of the season. So there's gonna be a whole year of movies that are gonna come out,
and everyone's gonna be comparing them back to Dune 2.
It's over, bro. It's over. It's over. Don't get me wrong. I love me. I'm looking forward to Wolverine and Deadpool, and there's a few other blockbusters. Don't get me wrong, but this right here, it feels like I feel like I'm never gonna get what I got ever again unless he makes more of these. And he is. The third one will come, but apparently we're not going to get it for several years, unfortunately. But my God. And honestly, this movie as a standalone is incredible, but you really should watch the first. I know you have, but I'm speaking to the audience. You should really watch the first one, because the first one, what this second one does, because it's one movie. Yeah. It's one movie. It's just cut in half. It's very similar to Lord of the Rings. You jump in and you're pretty much right where you left off. Like, it ain't too far from there, right? And my God, man, it's what they've done, what he's done, the music, Hans Zimmer, went all out. Oh, dude, the cinematography this is the most gorgeous film ever put to film. It's not even close. There isn't a movie in the history of cinema that look as good as this. It doesn't exist. It really doesn't. There's not even a close second. There isn't a close second place. This is like earlier in their discussion where you've got your bench warmer, and then you've got your LeBron James, and then you've got your person at home. Okay? This movie is LeBron. Okay? All other movies are the people at home. Like, that's the gap. It's that big. This movie is it's so incredibly breathtaking. Dude, you feel where you're at. You know, in Avatar, you're wearing 3D glasses and you get transported into this world of Pandora. I get that. But I felt more. I felt like I could taste spice. And it's not 3D. It's just like, it felt, and you know, everything that you're seeing, or not everything, but like the big ships and all this other shit, it's all CGI and shit. But the way that it's done, it just feels so real. It's like, I have no idea, man. The acting, Timothy Chalamet, this motherfucker. Is he him? Dude, I didn't think this guy could act the way
Timothy Chalamet.
Bro, Timothy is Timothy. Bro, I'm telling you right now. There's no spoilers, but the last 45 minutes of this movie, when the character has his growth, and he grows from Dune 1 all the way to where, my God, it's almost like a new actor just came in and just, I didn't even think he had this in him. Dude, what's his face? Bardem or fucking the guy who now I gotta
yeah, go look his go look his name up.
Honestly, you want to know what the weakest actor was? Oh, Javier Bardem. Not him. He's not the weakest. He steals the fucking show. I think the weakest link in the entire film was Christopher Walken. And he didn't have an insane amount. And here's the reason why I thought he was the weakest link. And dude, he did fine.
Yeah.
He did fine. I think he's the weakest link because it's Christopher Walken. And
Christopher Walken has one very specific.
He plays an emperor, and it's in a movie that is so where everybody else disappears.
He stands out.
He stands out because it's Christopher Walken, right? It's like if you put Leonardo DiCaprio in here, right? You'd see Leonardo DiCaprio. Yes, you can see Timothy Chalamet, you can see Austin Butler. Actually, Austin Butler is completely fucking, you don't even know it's him. But like Florence Pugh, man, she's like my new Rachel Bilson. You've got Jason Momoa, you've got whatever, right? Whoever, Dave Bautista.
Dave Bautista, yeah.
You got Dave Bautista, dude. You got Zendaya. You've got Rebecca Ferguson. I mean, dude, the whole, but they all disappear. The only one who doesn't is Christopher Walken.
Oh, it's impossible for him to disappear. You can't.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy too that I found out? Christopher Walken was in a music video.
Weapon of Choice? That? You don't remember Weapon of Choice?
Yes. But in the video, there's a line about Dune in the video.
Oh.
And I had no idea.
Really? In Weapon of Choice? Really?
There's a line about Dune, and now he's playing the Emperor in Dune.
Okay.
Just crazy.
Why not?
Yeah, that's wild.
Weapon of Choice is they redid that as a thing here in some commercial for the Super Bowl. They recreated scenes from Weapon of Choice's music video, like they redid like bits and pieces. Yeah. Dude,
I'm literally nitpicking. The only thing is there's one point in the movie where it feels like it speeds up very quick. And that's because everything is such a slow burn or an earn, even though it isn't as slow as the first one. And I think they realize, like, okay, if we really want a big commercial success, we got to throw in some more action. So there's action going on. Like, there's probably times as much action.
He was pretty open about that even when they put out Doom 1. He said he appreciates this is going to be slow, but this movie is crawling so that the next movie can run, kind of a situation.
And my God, bro, the last, and no spoilers, I'm going to spoil nothing, but the last showdown, the big, bro, there's some John Wick level hand-to-hand combat in this that feels so much more intense and so much more on the line than John Wick ever did.
Really?
Ever.
Well, I mean, I can see that if only because John Wick, the assumption is he's never going to fucking die. Like, literally ever. He's just...
Yes, and remember, this is like Game of Thrones, where you just don't know who the fuck is going to go, right?
Yeah.
And people die.
There's
death.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of death. And my God, dude, And I know George Lucas took a lot from Dune. Like, this is documented. He's even said, like, he's got inspiration from Dune. But this is like if Star Wars was made for adults. It is quite literally, there is nothing for children in this. Nothing. Zero. I don't even think there's a kid in the entire movie. Like, I don't think there's a single child, which is kind of weird now that I think about it. There might have been. I know that there were some younger people, but my God, dude, Javier Bardem, he plays Stilgar, and you remember him from the first movie.
Yep.
He might win an Oscar. I mean, as a supporting actor, dude, there's comedy in this. People laughed out loud for all the right reasons. We're not talking Marvel shit And there's there's no, it's just the character. The character. It's he plays it so perfect, dude. Everyone crushes it. The acting, the writing, the action, the music, the visuals, the worms, bro.
Did you get the popcorn bucket with the?
No, I looked for it. They didn't have it at our theater. They didn't have it. Dude, I'm telling you, Adam. I mean, dude, I know I'm hyping this up, and I went in there.
I was already going.
I went in there with the highest of high expectations because I really enjoyed Dune 1, and I saw it at home. I didn't even see it in IMAX.
Yeah, I saw. Em and I went to go see that in theater. That's
a life regret that I have to live with. But dude, the second one, it's on another level, man. I really feel bad for people that don't go and watch this on the biggest, loudest screen possible, the way that it's designed. At the end, the crowd, there was one guy, I was sitting in the IMAX. I like being on the very bottom, but at the top row, so there's nobody kicking, like it's where the walkway is.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, and it ends and the music comes up. And I mean, dude, there's the climax of the movie, and then the movie ends. You know, it's like you're still on a fucking high. Like you're like, holy fuck. And there's a guy. All of a sudden the movie ends, right? And you can immediately, I look to my left and right, and people are talking to each other. Like you can tell that they just experienced, like we've all kind of went through this together. And it's just like, oh my God. And there was a guy in the back, and all he did, let me get my desk up here. All of a sudden I heard, and this was like right as the credits rolled, you can hear the Hans Zimmer score come up, and all you hear was this. And I look around, and a guy there, and it's the most intense claps I've ever seen somebody do, and everybody just started cheering. The whole theater went nuts, and it was one of these movies where when I left the theater, and I forgot my hat too, so I had my hat sitting on it, because I had 2 tickets, but Kayla couldn't go, so I had a chair beside me where I put my jacket, my hat, and a bunch of shit, popcorn, so I have a space, so I forgot my hat, so I left, and then as I'm walking outside, I realized my head's cold. I'm like, oh, fuck my hat. So I go back into the theater to go pick up my hat. Dude, 80% of the auditorium was outside of the IMAX, and they're all talking about the movie. It's like they didn't want to leave the theater. I haven't seen something quite like this in forever. And I know I'm hyping this up, but no matter how much hype I'm giving it, if you're a true cinephile, if you really love cinema and the movies and the experience, this is the single greatest movie experience I've ever had in my life, and it's not close. It's not close. It's wild. Like I'll probably see it 3 or 4 times in IMAX before it leaves. And it's such a dense movie, and there's so much that happens, and the detail is fucking insane, dude. Just the shit in the background, like the attention to detail. I can't wait to go there again, where I can start focusing on other shit just to pick up on shit I didn't see. I love it. I love it. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. If I could go higher, I'd go higher. Is that good? Please see this in IMAX. You have to go. You have to go. You have to. If you love sci-fi, dude, you have to go. This is it. This is it. Dude, Star Wars sucks.
Yes,
Star
it
Wars
does.
is shit. I actually almost want to remove every piece of Star Wars memorabilia I have in my house. And I just want to turn it into Dune. Star Wars is garbage. It's shit. It's so bad. Compared to this, it's garbage. Like, who even... Dude, Star Wars is fucked. They're fucked. They are fucked. The only way they're not fucked is if he makes Star Wars. They're fucked.
Oh, imagine his version of Star Wars, though.
Bro, Star Wars is dog shit. It's fucking garbage. Garbage. Mandalorian, garbage. Force Awakens, garbage. Last Jedi, garbage. Rise of Skywalker, garbage. Prequels, garbage. The original's kind of good. Starting to turn into garbage after watching this. This is on another level, bro. This takes sci-fi to a whole nother level. Bro, just the flying alone, man. The shit. I don't even want to go see it, Adam. Go.
We're 100%.
Why are you even on the podcast, bro? Go. Run.
Well, I have to wait. I have to wait for when M is not working, so we can go and see this thing.
Oh my God! Tell her to call in sick. Go, dude! It's so crazy. It's crazy. The best parts of Game of Thrones. You know how Littlefinger would just do Littlefinger shit, and you'd be like, yeah. Bro, it's the whole fucking movie. It's just it's a religious, political, fucking orgasmic fuck of just awesome. I don't know how they did this. It's crazy. On $180 million, it's nuts. It's nuts. This better make all the money. All of it.
Well, didn't it already open with like some insane...
I think it made 82 million on the... I think right now it's over 200 million worldwide. Dude, if this thing doesn't make at least 800 million bucks, I'm going to be pissed. And I think the reason why this is going to have long legs, not only the fact that it's incredible, word of mouth is going to take this thing to... I didn't even look what it is on Rotten Tomatoes. If this thing isn't at least 98, fuck that show or that site and everybody on it. Rotten Tomatoes. Let me see here. Dune Part 2. 94 on Rotten Tomatoes, 95 audience score. For a highbrow, high fantasy sci-fi that actually requires you to have a fucking brain. Like, you actually have to listen and watch what's going on. You have to be able to interpret shit for 2 hours and 45 minutes. It doesn't spoon feed you anything. People don't say how they feel. They just feel, and you feel it. You don't need somebody to say, I'm very angry with you. You just know.
Acting.
It's acting. It exists, and it exists in Dune Part 2. This is wild, bro. You're going to look back like 20, 30 years from now. Your kids are going to be like, teenagers, and this is going to be your Star Wars. It's going to be your Lord of the Rings. This is going to be it. You're going to tell your children that this is it. This is it. And all cinema moving forward will change. This is the staple. All blockbusters from here on out are just fucking garbo. I almost don't even want to go watch another Marvel movie ever. Like, who wants to go see fucking the Marvels? Like, who wants to go fucking see Spider-Man? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I suppose. And you know what? I like Spider-Man, but at the same time, dude, I almost don't like it anymore because I just witnessed greatness.
Mr. Black is experiencing. There's lots of parallels to this. It's like when you put on a good pair of headphones for the first time.
Oh, this ain't.
And you can't. Bro. And then once you've heard, you listen to your favorite music on a good pair of headphones, and you've been stuck on like Apple earbuds, and then you can't go back to just listening on Apple earbuds anymore. You physically can't. Or it's like you've been watching or playing, on a 1080p, 20-year-old television forever, and then you see, a high-end $3,500 Sony that's been set up to watch movies on like properly.
Can't go back.
And you can't go back anymore. It's there. You get spoiled. You go to a restaurant that's not the $20 whatever you have not even that, but the preparation between a high-end restaurant. They can make the same meal. Once you've had it, when it's at that meal's best, you can't go back anymore. I can't go back. It's Dune is doing that to you, bro.
Dune is doing that to me. Is doing it to me. And listen, there will be people out there that will not like this movie because it is just not the type of film that they like. Like, some people just don't like sci-fi. Some people just don't like, Some people just like going to the movie theaters and watching Marvel.
Well, they want something brainless, right? Because it's their they don't want to use their brain too much.
Exactly, it's their escape. They just want to go there, and I'm not shitting on those people. But for the ones that actually like enjoy things like Lord of the Rings or even Harry Potter or any other of these big franchises, Avatar or these sci-fi type things, if you don't like this, there's something wrong with you. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. What more do you want? What more do you want? Where do you go from here? How does movies get better from this? How? I need to be on set and I need to I need to be on screen for it to be better, I guess. You can't. It's impossible. Bro, watch it. I want to go to IMAX right now and just rewatch this movie. It's fucking crazy. How do they do this? What kind of sorcery is going on here? I don't know. It's crazy.
You know what it sounds like it is, if I'm going to be honest. So you compared to Marvel has lots of talented people working on it, but they're on crazy time restraints, and they're not able to get away with not paying the stars $50 million a pop to do the movies. So they're up against the wall. And you've seen it as their special effects have gotten worse and worse because they're on shorter and shorter timelines, paying people less and less money so that they can keep paying Robert Downey $50 million a movie to do Iron Man, right? So, but in this instance, you've got a director who's all about the art of film, but also knows how to put that into something that is a little bit more mass marketable than just like an art house director might be. You've got obviously, and then behind that,
like A24. If you gave A24 $180 million and the greatest cinematographer of all time,
then yeah, you're going to get. And you got Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer does it for the passion. Everyone involved has got the passion, and they're not just doing it because of a paycheck necessarily. Obviously, they're getting paid to do it, but it's not because it's not the sole driving factor. Isn't I won't come back to do another Marvel movie unless you pay me $40 million. It's I want to be part of this because I think it's a special piece of something, and I want to be a part of that.
He's my new Nolan. Him, Denis, Tarantino, Nolan. These three directors, if I could just watch their movies, they come out with a movie a piece every year, I'd be living a very happy life. I'd be, dude, what he's managed to do here, and he's been storyboarding this. He said he's been storyboarding this since he was a teenager. Since he was a teen. And
well, that tells you something else. He loves the frame. He loves the property. So that makes it that much better.
Bro. And he said that he cut out a bunch of shit for the movie, and because it served the movie the best. He said I did an interview. He's like, cutting out scenes is like, killing off your kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He talked about how there's never going to be a director's cut for these because
never. Yeah. And you know what? Like, I'm salty because I want to see. Dude, that's my biggest gripe of the movie. It's not long enough. I looked at my watch because I knew I was deep into this movie, and I looked. You know, a movie's good when you look at your watch, and you're like, "Fuck, there's only 40 minutes left." Fuck. You ain't looking at it because like, God damn, when does this fucking thing end? You're looking at it because you don't want it to end. It's that good. The stuff that they did with the color, because when they're showing a different planet, there's like a planet that doesn't have any color. It's like, I guess it's so bright that like
it's bleached, dude, basically. The light is bleaching everything. Yeah.
Dude, there's one, and it ain't a spoiler, by the way, but there's one scene where a character is walking from an interior. Yeah. And it just blind you. And it's perfect. Like, it looks like a regular scene. Yeah. And then they walk out into this, basically walks out into an arena. Yeah. And all of a sudden you can see the light hits and the whole color palette and everything just morphs.
I
and
wonder.
What they did,
I wonder
dude,
if I ever got to ask him about that scene. I would ask him if he got inspiration from The Wizard of Oz, because there's a very famous scene in The Wizard of Oz in the very beginning when Dorothy's house lands in Oz, and when Dorothy is in the home, it's black and white. So the beginning of the movie is all black and white. And then when her house lands in Oz and she opens the door to walk out into Oz, the movie goes from black and white into Technicolor. Yeah, and the house stays, similar. And you're seeing the black and white in the house still, but then you're seeing Oz in Technicolor.
Yes, that's what happens. That's what happens. And I'm doing it a disservice, but when you see it in IMAX, and with the music that's going on, and what's actually happening, because it's a huge scene, you're going, oh my, this is so beautiful. It's like everything is like a wallpaper. You could take a screenshot at any part in the movie and put it up as a painting in a fucking $70 million Beverly Hills mansion, and you'd go, oh wow, what the fuck? How much did you pay for that? That's what every scene, every shot is like that, man. Do
you think that Dune 2 is going to retroactively make Denis' earlier films that had like lukewarm receptions suddenly resurge? Because 2049 had a kind of a lukewarm
reception. They have lukewarm receptions? I mean, from a box office standpoint, yes.
Yes.
I think I have to go rewatch that, because I wasn't a big fan. I actually fell asleep in the theaters watching that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But now there's like
Arrival's amazing. That's a great sci-fi. Prisoners, one of the best movies like ever. Like that movie, as a like a thriller, mystery thriller, that's like top 3 for a genre. Obviously Dune Part 1, incredible, but Dune Part 1, when you watch 2, it takes the 1, it just takes it to another level. It just everything just starts, bro, it's crazy. How do they do this? I don't know. Anyway, I've talked it up enough. Guys, go watch it. When Adam watches it, we'll do a spoiler. We'll talk.
We'll do a spoiler one. Yeah.
We'll do a spoiler one, and it's gonna be amazing. Please go see it. Like, try and go see it next week when there's an audience, like a big audience, because it's one of these movies that like you want to experience with people, and it just adds to the whole thing. You can hear a pin drop, dude, at the climax when it's the most intense, bro. All of the extra shit goes away, and it's just you and this fucking fight. And dude, the entire audience you can hear a fucking pin drop. Everybody's so into it, man. And then when shit goes down, you're like, wow, this is crazy. This is crazy. Fuck. It's dude, this is like Endgame times 10. For an experience. And I loved Endgame. I loved it. I thought it was a perfect Marvel film. But this is like another level, man. This was made for me. It's a religion, bro. And I believe in this God.
Oh, well, there's your sales pitch, everyone. If you haven't already decided to go see Dune 2, I'm sure you've already locked it in now.
Go.
But now, Mr. Black, for a podcast
see Dune 1 first.
For a podcast
see Dune 1 first.
That had no topics.
We only needed one.
We only needed one. But we have answer a couple of questions before we end this. So let's move on to
tech support.
Patreon.com/lagtv. Yeah, you're into it.
I'm in, bro. Woke me up and standing up.
Patreon.com/lagtv, the place to go if you want to financially support the podcast. $5 or more a month typically would get you into this category, but today we opened it up more because I thought that we might end up being in trouble for time, but we ran to the opposite side of that instead. Nevertheless, patreon.com/lagtv. Put up a post called Tech Support. You get to ask your questions on that post each week, right before the podcast, and then we answer them. to the best of our ability with the time that we got. Great news. Onyx's question was, talk about Dune. Great. Nailed it.
Adam will, and I am pumped and nervous to see what Adam truly thinks.
Nervous. I think it will be just fine. I think I will enjoy it a lot. I'm sure it will be good.
I think somebody like you that like absolutely adores picture quality and like.
Well, that's why I like his films from a distance. Is that when I leave a theater, that's what I take away more often than anything. Is that portion?
You're gonna take away, bro. You're gonna fucking the first 5 minutes. You're gonna go. You're gonna go. Yeah. Wow. You ride that fucking worm too. You're gonna go. Wow. What the fuck am I watching? Yeah. It was so good.
Oh shit. Jubinator asks, for your first home, would you buy a brand new house on a tiny lot with an HOA or a fixer-upper with a bigger lot and no HOA?
Well, okay, bro. Say it one more time. Would I rather buy a house with a small lot?
First home, small lot, brand new home.
Yeah.
Or with an HOA. Or a fixer-upper with a bigger lot and no HOA.
Okay, well, it's a loaded question because
a lot of it is where is this happening? For one, it was
correct.
Yeah.
So 1, location. 2, price.
Yeah.
Right. If you're gonna pay the same amount,
let's say it's equal. From getting in, not obviously HOA has fees associated. So I know that is true. It's a loaded question. So let's just talk about it as if this was Halifax. We don't have a lot of HOA shit floating around here. It's not like the States per se, how common it is in a lot of places. We have some areas that are like that, but it's not quite the same animal. But let's say it is because Halifax is still a hot market. It does have a lot of fixer-uppers. It has a lot of new, small, postage stamp fucking properties. So, from that perspective, and assuming that your turnkey, same price, I don't mean in terms of, like, also including perhaps the money to fix it up. What are those two options?
Well, so are we including that it would be the same price if you fixed it up or not? So you got to add in more money?
I'm assuming that that is, because the way that this is worded, it sounds like that is the whole. This is really what this sounds like is HOA versus I need to spend money to fix it up is what this sounds like, and then obviously the smaller lot.
Yeah. Okay, so 2 things. What is in the HOA? Because a lot of HOAs are very different, right? You
can have very little, or you can have like
correct. And some HOAs you don't pay any money. But you have to abide by very specific, like, you can't
standards.
Have garbage out at certain times. You gotta have your lawn is gotta be well maintained. You gotta have a certain this. There's very things. So first off, HOAs scare me. The reason why they scare me is because they can change, right? And it's like an added extra. Maybe a few $100s a month that you don't have to pay somewhere else. Like you still already have to pay your property tax. You still have to pay your mortgage payment. You still have to pay your maintenance and your utilities. And then you've got an HOA. But since it is a new build, chances are your HOA probably won't go up considerably that much, but it will eventually. Also, reselling something that is an HOA is harder to do than something that isn't HOA. So you have to take into consideration, how long do you plan to be there? Do you plan to be there for decades if it's your dream house and it gives you everything that you want in a home and you think you're going to be there for a very long time, and you can afford it, then go for it. But typically, if you want more bang for your buck, having more land usually means more value, and especially in the long term, because you can't build land. I mean, you can convert land, but there's only so much land on planet Earth. You can't just make a new block out of thin air. So the property value will likely go up the larger lot that you have, unless that smaller lot is in a downtown area or a coastal area or something where you're really paying for your location. So yeah, it's a loaded question. Personally, for me, not a big fan of HOA fees, just because I can't control it. And they might go, hey, we need an extra $30,000 to pave, some sidewalks or something, and it's coming out. We got to add $50 a month to everybody's HOA or whatever. But don't let that completely deter you from buying something in HOA, but just understand that there is another variable that you may not want to deal with in the long term. And if you break HOA, there can be fees, fines, a lot of shit that can go down if you depending on your lifestyle and how you live. So I can't give you advice because I don't know your situation, but all I can do is let you know the risks involved with HOA and the benefits of having a larger lot. But once again, you're probably gonna have to put a bunch of money to replace or to rehab the house, all that stuff. But the cool thing about rehabbing is you can choose the pace in which you do it, and you can also customize it the way that you want. And as long as the square footage is there, the bones are there, the bones are good. Hey, not only that, with a rehab house, you can usually get a discount. Things are cheaper. When you're buying a new construction, you're buying it typically at top of the market price. They're building a property, a turnkey house, and you are typically going to pay absolute peak and sometimes even more, depending on how competitive your area is. You're paying peak. So, just know that if you're going to spend $500,000 on, say, a new build construction, and that's basically the top of the line, all the other houses around you are the same or less. Now you're going to be, waiting more for that appreciation to really kick in. Or if you need to sell in a year, 2, 3 years, depending on where the market is, I don't know if you're in the States or Canada or wherever, you might be upside down if you try and sell it quick enough, which is a timeline is also very important. So throwing that out there, don't let it scare you, but let it make you a little nervous. Ask questions.
Yeah, man, it's there's so many variables. Jeff touched on pretty much all the things that I would be considering. The thing for me personally, the thought, I already have to have certain standards for the city. With my property, you don't actually ever own your house or your property. Even if you own it, you don't really own it. You are perpetually leasing your land from the city.
Property tax.
Yep. And so it's already an annoyance to have to jump through hoops for the city. There's going to be very few situations in which I would ever want to tack on average people living around me making up fucking rules arbitrarily about my property on top of that. I would become a serial killer because I'm already not going to I'm not going to have cars sitting in my front yard, but also if my green bin is out a little longer because I'm working and we leave the green bin out front and it's not back by some arbitrary fucking time so that when Brenda comes home from fucking Booster Juice after her 5-hour fucking goat yoga session and is driving down the roads and she doesn't want to see green bins, go fuck yourself, Brenda. Go fuck yourself.
Well, that's very important. You got to understand the neighborhood, who your neighbors are. Sometimes HOA is great for a lot of older people. And the other thing is with HOA, sometimes that comes with lawn care, snow removal, a lot of, maybe there's a park in the neighborhood that gets upkeeped and taken care of. There are things that HOA can provide.
Similar to a condo, almost.
It's very similar to a condo.
Yeah.
But once again, all HOAs are different. They have similarities.
And they're not really regulated in any meaningful way. So that's the scarier part, is that there's not really just imagine the average person. Do you want them to regulate?
Yeah.
The average.
Like you're to the point where like somebody on the board could knock on your door and be like, "Yo, if you don't turn on your lights on the outside after 8 p.m., we're gonna send you a $150 fine." Right?
Yeah.
Do you really want to be dealing with that shit? You know what I mean? Like you got to go through what the HOA.
And like you said, though, it can change.
Like
you might get in and it's okay,
it goes bad.
And then 2 years go by, and all of a sudden Brenda with her booster juice, looking for that bin to be in.
And not only that, in new construction, new HOA, they sometimes they'll lock you in, and then they'll make the change once they sell all the houses, and that's when they'll pipe down, and they want to create some sort of community in their own vision that can bring up a lot of shit that you don't want to deal with. So
exactly. So for me, and then the other way that I think about it is that in these trying times, you know, Em and I will probably be able to, within the next 10 years, we'll afford another property and we'll keep this one. But that's probably as far as that will be taken, just based on how expensive properties are going to be 10 years from now, how little wages are going to track across those 10 years to meet that rising cost. And we're a very, very lucky, we'll be strapped, but we'll be very, very lucky as far as our age group is concerned, and younger people are even harder fucked than we are. If I hear land, I'm taking land. And I think of it this way. My cousin owns a house by himself. It's a small, old home, real small, but he lives alone. It's kind of whatever. But the property is quite large. And so in the future, if let's say he was never able to get another property somewhere else, it would be more cost effective for him to level the home that he is in and build a bigger home because he has the property and it's zoned to allow that house size. Even better than something to keep track of depending on cities that you're in, like in Halifax right now and in many other places, they are changing zones to allow for more units on the same size property that they were only like one unit before. So at this point, there is a property that's in Halifax, as an example, that sold in 2020. I just saw this one online the other day. It sold in 2020 for tens of thousands as per chunk of property. I think it was somebody that owned the property next to their home, and they just drew the line and said, I'm gonna sell this shit.
Yeah.
It's currently selling because of the new zoning that allows 4 units on this one property for $320,000 or $340,000 for just the property, nothing else. Because a developer can go in and put 2 townhouses for 4 units, sell each one of those individual units for $600,000, and make all of their money back. And so. That's what you have to think about. Is land is, like Jeff said, always going to be more valuable than just the house sitting on top of it. And as time goes on, that just continues to be more and more and more fucking true. I mean, especially here in Canada, we've got you know, not to make it political, we have a prime minister that's literally on the bath salts that I told Jeff that is taking over Florida at this very moment. The dude is just on every fucking illicit drug known to man. In an interview where he talks about the housing, and they called him out, where he says, all right, we need 3, well, the person said, because it's true, we need something like 3.2 million homes in the next, like right now. That's the how much we don't have that we need. Is like between 2.5 and 3.5 million homes right now. That's how much we're behind schedule. He wants to bring in, over the next 10 years, something like 1 to 3 million new people into the country, because our birth rate's terrible. So we're floating everything with immigration. But the difference between promoting birth rate and immigration is that when you promote birth rate, it takes 18 to 20 years before you have to worry about them getting into a home because they're kids. When you fill everything up with just more adults, you immediately need housing. And so he wants to bring in 3 million more people. We're already 3 million behind schedule where we need it right now. And then when he was pressed on all of his initiatives for building homes, he said, or they said to him that it's like 1% of what's required. It was like 30,000 homes or something over the next decade. And he said, he literally said, au contraire, it's actually 300,000. To which I was thinking, that's still only 10%. Dude, and that is if the market didn't change.
Yes.
If nothing moved, and we need 3 million now, in 10 years we still need 2.7 million. But not only that, but in 10 years more people will be of age to buy homes. Still not enough homes being built, and we're bringing in millions of immigrants to backfill the fact that we have a low birth rate because of a million other reasons that are going on in the background. And so property is almost always going to be more valuable because of the situation that we, at least in the West, find ourselves in right now. Because it is similar in the States, although it's worse here. Despite the fact that we have more land and less people, we have found a way to regulate ourselves out of building homes.
And trust me, there are builders that want to build.
Of course.
Except the government goes, nope.
No.
Red tape, red tape, red tape, more red tape, more red tape. Tape, red tape, permits?
Permits aren't even the problem. Bro. It's not even like the permits. It's like the benchmarks that they want, like, are just insane.
Everything's insane, bro. It's just, it is what it is. But hey.
Yeah. There you go.
We ain't got much more time with him.
No, we really don't. He's on his way.
So it's all good.
He's on his way.
Liberals are like, even the liberals are like, bro.
Dude, the percentages, did you see the percentages of liberal cabinet members voting for who they think should lead the party? Even amongst his own cabinet that he put in, he is not the leading candidate. And the vote is so split, there is no even remotely, we're talking like 15% is like in the lead. Like nobody, like the Liberal Party is so fucked. They have nothing. So even though I don't agree with a lot of what Poilievre says, because there's lots that I don't agree with, he is still, unfortunately, the only fucking choice we have, because not even the liberals can decide who to run the fucking party anymore. They're eviscerated. They're literally useless. It's fucking crazy. It's just wild to watch in real time. It's like, it's fucking nutty. Ace High says, who's the greatest Jeff of all time? Jeff Bezos, Jeff Goldblum, Jeff Katzenberg, and he said, sorry, Jeff, close but no cigar.
I was gonna say Jeff Johnston. What was it? Jeff Bezos, Jeff what?
Jeff Goldblum. I mean, I'm gonna say Jeff Goldblum. I got a cardboard cutout of Jeff Goldblum right over here. I'm gonna go, Jeff Goldblum's good, solid choice. There's probably others, but Jeff Goldblum is one of one. He's one of the most unique, crazy motherfuckers on the planet.
What are the other Jeffs? What was it? What was the list?
Well, he had one that was like Jeff Katzenberg. I don't even know who the fuck that is, to be honest with you, off the top of my head.
I mean, I'm gonna go with Goldblum, I guess. Like, the list there, I don't know. I mean, he seems like a pretty nice stand-up dude.
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
There's
not a whole lot of famous Jeffs out there.
It's true. Jeff Foxworthy.
Yeah. But
God, I'm happy that era of comedy is over. I never found any of the redneck shit funny, like, ever. And I'm white. Another person talking about Dune. We definitely covered that. Y'all, favorite Trailer Park Boys character? I mean, it's got to be Bubbles. I can't say anything other than Bubbles. Yeah, it's just like, come on.
I'll just go different, and I'll say Ricky, just because Bubbles is my favorite. But Ricky's pretty fucking funny.
Yeah. Like, and the interaction between Bubbles and Ricky is always good. It's always good. Dr. Samurai, did you find the pitch deck for investing in Stormgate? No, somebody sent us the frequently asked questions section on their website that kind of loosely touches upon what they're doing, but it didn't describe it in any real meaningful way that made me feel more comfortable about what it was that they're doing with this whole, like, selling stock and whatnot. But you know what's funny is that they're also asked a question in there, I will say this, where the question was loosely something along the lines of, what if Stormgate doesn't make enough money when it first launches? Is it going to go away if it's not successful in the first short period after launch. And the response was, thankfully we have a reasonable runway because we have cash reserves. Which I think was just a way of them saying this company is owned by a couple of very wealthy individuals, and we can lengthen the runway if we need to. But yeah, I mean, as far as the like buying stock to like help give them more money, that wasn't, that's not really gone into any like major detail. They do mention it, and I still find it very weird. I find it fucking weird.
Yeah, even there's a video that Grubby put out where even he's like,
he's a little confused about it.
Yeah, he says the title of his thing is Stormgate is asking, in caps, asking fans for investment into Frost Giant equity, and then like his thumbnail is like, you know what I mean, like, and I'm just reading the comment section and people are just kind of like blasting Stormgate. You know what I mean? They're just going like, what the fuck? Like, what are they doing? Yeah, we'll see. I mean, hey, we'll see. Low key hope not too many people invest into that, because I feel like, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either. I think it's a little fucking odd. Personally,
it is very odd. It's very odd.
Jackie asks, if you had enough savings, would you invest in another investment property, or pay down a mortgage? I'll answer this first, because it kind of coincides with what I was just talking about not long ago here in the other question. So a lot of this is going to depend on like just how much money you got floating around, and what kind of mortgage situation that you're in. So Em and I are in variable, which means we're getting fucked by cactuses right now on a daily basis. A lot of people, we're almost there. We're not that it makes a difference between almost being there and being there, but the interest is in a spot right now on variable mortgages that for a lot of people, we're about to flip into like the hellscape where you're actually paying more. The interest is outpacing so hard that you're paying nothing into the principal and all interest. There is a fanciful term for that. It's escaping me right now. There is a really scary sounding fucking term for when it flips. I can't think of it right now off the top of my head. That being said, depending on what kind of a situation you're in, and if you're in like Canada, for example, and you're not just clearing a bunch of money, something to always keep in mind is that in Canada, like we've talked about before, this is not like the States where you lock yourself in on a 25-year fucking mortgage or a 35 or a 40, some shit, and then whatever you lock in, you're locked in. There are people locked in the States right now at like 2-point-something% for 40 goddamn years. Up here in Canada, there's, like, we say that there's a variable and a fixed. It's barely, because we have 5-year fixed, and then you have to re-up on the shit and decide every 5 years. And that's a way for the bank to make sure that they're maximizing the amount of money that they're making every time the rate fucks around. And as we know, as millennials, on about every decade, the economy fucks around and finds out. And so depending on what kind of dice you're rolling, where you are in your mortgage, how much your mortgage is, etc., etc. For example, in my instance, I would just put all of the money into the principal of this house, because the amount of savings that I'm going to have over the life of this house, in terms of dollars that I'm not seeing in a bank account now, but in terms of the equity that is in the house, is going to outpace whatever $250 I might be able to clear in rent on a property after I'm paying everything that has to do with that property, including the mortgage on the next property. I would have to own that next property for like my whole goddamn life, to be able to see the same amount of money as if I put that into this house right now, because it would save me literally like 150, 200 grand off the top, depending on what kind of down payment or what kind of payment I'm making to the principal at this point, because it's so early in our mortgage. If we're deep in the mortgage, that changes. But for us up front, where the interest hurts you hardest,
the
amortization comes for that butthole. right?
Yeah.
See, like, so there's a lot, just like the other question, it's top heavy, it's loaded, it's a loaded question. But in that instance, I would say, if I had to guess, and this is not financial advice, I would say most people are probably going to be in my situation if you own a home and you're around my age, where you are, generally speaking, in a position where putting money into that first property is likely long-term more profitable than trying to spin it into something else, unless you have some very specific pawns in play on the board that fewer people would. Now, Mr. Black is ready to jump in. What do you got, Mr. Black?
Yeah. See, now I could talk about this forever. Okay.
Yes.
So can you? What's the question again?
The question is, if you have enough savings, and I'm assuming enough meaning, do you have the 20% to put on another property? Because if it's not your primary residence, you first buy, you have to go in 20. So this would be. Well, because let me finish it to frame it for you.
Okay.
So if you have enough savings, would you invest in another investment property? So that would trigger that it's a rental, or pay down mortgage on your existing property that you're currently living in. So that would be like 20% on a home right now. So you were talking 80 grand. 80 grand into the property of my house would save me, like, Jesus Christ, $180,000 in interest over the life of the mortgage.
Yeah. Okay. So it's once again, it's not financial advice, but I think I'm pretty educated because I've done.
We have to say that just in case anyone acts on it, but yes.
Yeah, but I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So the question that you're asking is, I don't know all the variables. Okay. So
yes,
let's just get one thing out of the way.
Yeah.
You own a house. The house that you're in, you're paying monthly. I don't know what the interest rate is at. That is huge.
Yes.
Okay. I'd be able to answer this far better if I knew what your interest rate was. So for layman's term, or just for a sake of just putting a number out there, let's say your interest rate is at 3.5%. Okay. So it's at 3.5% because you said you have a significant amount of money saved up and now you're looking to purchase another house. So unless you're a very high income individual and you can get a bunch of money very quickly, then chances are you've been saving up for a little while. And if you've been saving up for a little while, chances are your interest rate's lower than where the interest rates are right now. So let's just go and just say you're at 3.5%. You might be at 2, you might be at 3, you might be at 4. I don't know, but we're going to say 3.5. So you're at 3.5%. And now you're going, okay, what do I do? I have a bunch of money. I have enough to put 20% down on a rental property or an investment, whatever. I don't know if you're doing it via Airbnb, if you're doing it long-term rental, whatever. But let's just say it's a rental. So let's just say you have $200,000. We'll go 100K. We'll just go 100K. So you have $100,000, and let's just pretend that's 20% to go into a house. Or you could take the 100K and throw it on your house. Here's the issue, okay? First, you got to understand what your terms are of your mortgage. You cannot simply just take $100,000 and throw it onto your mortgage.
Yeah, not every mortgage will let you do that.
Almost none of them will, without paying fees. And those fees are typically 3 months of interest. So depending on how, and you're basically breaking the terms, right? So you're going in there, you're throwing a bunch of money, and in some cases you have to remortgage. You have to get another mortgage, right? So let's just say if you could, maybe you have a HELOC, which I'm going to speak about here in a second, but say you could put 100,000, chances are you can do that, but you have to do that over a time. So typically on a mortgage, you're able to do 10% a year in an extra pay down. So unless that 10% equates to $100,000 or more, you would actually be able to put it down there, and that's per calendar year, per your anniversary. Or a lot of the times they allow you to do double payments. So for example, if your mortgage payment is $2,000 a month, the bank will actually allow you to do a second $2,000 a month. And that other $2,000 that you put down will go directly to the principal. So we're talking boom, right on your principal. It's exactly what Adam was talking about. That $2,000 saves you way more than $2,000 over the course of a if you're on a 30-year fixed or whatever, right? Over the amortization period. Because your interest is very top heavy. The bank wants to make sure that they're getting their money. If you buy a house for $500K, if you wait 30 years to pay it off, you've paid like $1 million for that house. Just because of what it was and then the interest. Now, don't get me wrong, you're going to make money via appreciation, all that stuff, but that's whatever. Your real question is, what should I do with the money? Well, you got to ask yourself 2 important questions. Number 1, what's your risk tolerance? What are you comfortable with doing? Where's the market at? I know that's more than 2 questions, but you got to ask yourself all of these things.
Yes.
If your risk tolerance is okay and you find a property, okay, and you, for example, can buy a property and you can rent it out, and the rent that you're getting is cash flow positive, which means all your expenses, your property tax, your maintenance, your vacancy, your everything, your insurance, your mortgage payment, everything is paid off by the tenant or tenants. If you're buying a multi-unit, who knows? Depending on, at that point, via money-wise, from just a number standpoint, you're likely going to make more money. You will make more money having the property. But remember, now that you have a property, you now have another expense. Things are going to go wrong. Maybe you have to get a property management company. Maybe you'll do it yourself so that you can save some money. All is good, but just remember that this is another thing that you're going to have to take care of for the long term. Buying rental properties for the long term is like adopting a child, right? You don't just get to buy it and then just, oh yeah, go on, you're 3 years old now, just go. No, they need to be taken care of. They need TLC. They need somebody to look after. You need to collect rents. You need to do all this stuff. So if you're open to that from a number standpoint, you're going to make more because you're now going to have monthly cash flow. The property that you put in for $100K, you're getting a $500,000 property, or we'll say $400K, or no, $500 if we're doing 20%, whatever. So now each year, typically property values go up 3%. So you're going to make 3% of $500K in appreciation a year. Even if it's at 1%, that's $5,000 a year right there, right? At 3%, it's 15 grand. And yeah, that's paper gains. When you go to sell it, that's when you'll make some money. But then also your tenant is paying down the principal. So if your mortgage payment for your rental is $2,000, about half of it is going directly to principal. The other half is going to interest. So that's another forced $1,000. We call that forced saving that is going into the property each and every month. So in the span of a year, that's $12,000 in principal pay down, and that will continue to go up as the payments keep getting made, because as we discussed, it's high interest up front and it tapers down over the years. So now you're making $15,000 on appreciation, you're making $12,000 of principal pay down, and say you're making a modest $200 or say $100 a door in cash flow. Say you have one door. That's $1,200 in the span of a year on top of all of that other money that you've made. Now, with that money, right, you can, after a period of time, say 3, 4, 5 years, depending on what the market does, you can do a cash out refinance. So you can refinance that property, pull out the equity that your tenants have been paying down, and tap into the appreciation. Your mortgage payments will go up some. So you want to make sure that you're raising your tenant's rent every year to keep up with inflation and with market rents. And now you'll have a little chunk of money to either buy another property or put down on your home, whatever one that wants to work for you. The way I look at it is, if you pay down your house, that is a guaranteed 3.5% return on your money. If your interest rate's 3.5%, we're pretending that's what it is. So if you give $100,000, you've made 3.5%. That's guaranteed return. But you don't actually make any more money. And there's always this, because if you're going to stay in the property, who cares about appreciation? You're not tapping into it. You're paying down your house. It's whatever. Yeah, it might be worth more if you go to sell it one day, but you're just recouping the money that you put back in. But what that will eventually do is it will lower your monthly payments over time, right? Especially when you have a renewal come up. You can when the interest rates come down because they're high right now, you can refinance it, lock it in at a lower rate, whatever the case may be, and that will alleviate some of the burden in your life. If you pay off your home, now say your $2,000 a month payment is no longer there. Now you only have property tax, which might be $300 or $400 a month, depending on where you live. I'm using hypotheticals. Now you can take that difference and use that as your down payments for your rentals, or put it in the stock market, or whatever the case may be, whatever. But it all depends on your level of risk and what gives you peace of mind, right? I've aggressively paid down my house. I also know that I could have taken that money and bought more real estate and made way more money. Even if the interest rates are 7%, and I had a 7% interest rate on this house, I would still make more money buying rentals in the long term. But peace of mind and options for me and my family is infinitely better than making an extra bit of money. And you have to ask yourself that. And then also, before you even attempt, and it's not financial advice, but even before you attempt to pay down your house early, make sure that all of your high interest rate consumer debt is paid off.
Get everything else.
Why in the fuck? Yeah. Why in the absolute fuck would you put $100,000 or whatever, it could be 30 grand, 500 grand, onto a 3.5% guaranteed return
when you get a 20%
credit card, yeah, or a 7 or 5% student loan, or a car payment that
a line of credit or whatever else.
A line of credit, whatever. Get rid of the high interest debt first. Also, if you're planning to aggressively pay down your home, once again, not financial advice, but should really consider getting a HELOC, a home equity line of credit, which is basically it's basically like having a large credit card on your house. That way, when you put your money into the HELOC, it's very easy for you to tap into that HELOC in case of an emergency. You know, God forbid somebody gets sick. If you live in America, you have to pay a lot of money for that, depending on insurance. Maybe there's a rental, an investment opportunity that came up on the market or privately that came to you, and you really need to tap into the money that you've been paying down, but you don't want to remortgage, get a new interest rate at a higher, deal with a bunch of bullshit. Your HELOC is there to then take money off. Typically, you only want to use a HELOC for 6 months because you're going to pay your prime plus usually a couple of points. So if your house interest is 3.5%, you might be paying 5.5% on the money that you take out. But it is great to have the option to be able to pull money out to move money around. It's just the way it is. So you have to really ask yourself, what is it for you? And every single individual and family will have different risk tolerance and different financial goals for each individual. There is no black and white. But if you want the statistical, factual return on money, you are far better off buying a good asset that is going to generate you money that you can leverage the debt, opposed to just paying down your home. But that's coming from a guy that has aggressively paid down his home and still has rental properties. You can do both, but you have to ask yourself, what's more important to you now? The other thing that people don't realize as well with holding rental is there's a lot of tax benefits that come with that. And a lot of the time, people don't realize how much money you can save by claiming depreciation and other tax breaks, especially in the United States, where you have 1031 exchanges and a whole slew of other shit that you can do to offset your taxes so that you virtually pay no tax. So, but if you're starting small and you're just looking for a second property and it's under your name, you don't have different corporations and holding companies and a bunch of other shit, just ask yourself, what's important to you? If it's strictly the money percentage on your dollar
and you're willing to put in the extra work and take the extra risk, because owning property, it's a risk. It just is. It's usually a safe bet if you buy right and you got the right processes put in place, but things can go wrong. You partner with the wrong person, you buy the wrong house, you buy at the wrong time, you don't have proper cash reserves, you stretch yourself too thin, bro, you're far better off just paying off your home and alleviating that. Having no house payment will free up your mind. You'll be able to say fuck you to the shitty boss that you have when you don't need to put yourself through hell. You know, you still have that property tax and stuff, but my goodness, isn't it a beautiful thing if you can say you don't have a mortgage payment? And then when you don't have that mortgage payment, you can take that several $1,000s, and you know how fast you can save money to then buy the rental, right? You're going to slow down the process, the compounding interest over a while. You're most certainly going to lose out on tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. But really, who gives a fuck if you have peace of mind and you can operate better as a human and your day is more productive and you don't have to worry about the grass just feels different when you own it fully and you don't owe anybody anything. So that, in my opinion, is worth more than a couple of extra points any day of the week. But I will say, a little foolish if you've got a 2% interest and you want to throw everything in the kitchen sink at 2%.
Yeah, if you're at 2%, I mean, that's...
Guys, but...
Different situation.
Again, but once again, even if that 2% gives you peace of mind, money
then do it.
Is not worth peace of mind. Period.
You can't necessarily live longer just on money, but you can factually live a lot longer when you're not stressed out of your fucking mind all the time.
Exactly. So, without all of the details, the next time somebody sends in a real estate question, try and give us as much details as possible so I can give you a more informed answer. But it's pretty cut and dry, dude. It's just guaranteed return. That's just it. And you can tap into that money whenever. Worst case scenario, you pay off your house. Oh my God. Like, nobody complains about a paid off house. Nobody. Never. In the history of foreverdom.
No.
Right? If somebody's bitching at you for paying off your home early, either they want your money to do their bidding or they're broke. And don't listen to broke people when it comes to financial advice. They're broke for a reason. So if you are disciplined enough that you have enough to pay off your home,
pay that shit off.
I mean, dude, pay off your fucking house.
I mean, that goes for lots of stuff. Like if you can afford to buy a car in cash, then not think about every single month I've got $300 to $500 in car payments.
No, fuck
a
that.
lot of times that's just like it's like a peace of mind thing. So you own the fucking vehicle. You've got you're done. They own the house, and it's true. And like I think that it's obviously like you mentioned, it's a big risk aversion thing, which is any investment is you have to calculate in some tangible way, what is your risk tolerance? Not even I don't even want to say risk. What is your risk profile in terms of your own personal? Because some people can have a high risk like profile, but their actual tangible like risk tolerance is fucking like nothing, and so. Which is why we have fiduciary responsibility so that people aren't just getting sold shit, one way or the other because somebody's getting a commission in a bank somewhere, but. Man, if there's one thing that will, this will speak to somebody buying a fixer-upper, if there's one thing that will humble you faster about adulthood, it's owning a home and realizing how quickly you can be in a home and everything is fine, and then nothing is fine in the next fucking like 15 minutes. The fucking roof is leaking, the foundation's fucking gone, windows seals fucking busted up, the deck needs to be replaced, the driveway needs to be resealed, you gotta get rid of a fucking tree about to fall on your house, and like none of this shit.
Washer dryer.
Nobody ever
Stove,
really
fridge.
thinks about that shit. And everything is so
HVAC.
fucking expensive. And so, like, that peace of mind of not having all of that as a possibility, which never goes away for as long as you own the property, mortgage or not. That's already a lot of stress. If you don't have to worry about a mortgage payment sooner, bro, especially right now where everything's just constantly on fire.
Dude,
my goal
everybody
here
was
with this
calling me
home,
an idiot.
dude,
Pay it off, bro. Get
right
rid of
now
it.
is get this house as paid off as possible, so that in the worst case scenario, the absolute worst case is that we have one home and nobody else can afford to buy one. That is literally like,
There you go.
in a world where it's becoming impossible to buy one, if we can manage to get one locked, I'm good.
Yeah,
I'll live
I
with
mean-
the fact that I've only got, half of my house because I'm renting out part of it. I can live with that shit. But you know what I wouldn't be able to want to if I could avoid it, is having to just perpetually rent for the rest of my fucking life. And that's not to say anything about being a landlord, because I am technically myself one as it stands. It's not about the concept of avoiding paying into a landlord's pockets for the sake of the landlord. It's just, who wants to do that if you can own something to some degree? We talked about how you don't technically own your house because it's the government's property, but you know what we mean when we say, home ownership.
Yeah.
And that's,
dude, if you
that's
pay-
a different animal.
If you paid off your house, you can afford to pay your just.
Did you see?
tax,
Not
right?
that this
You'd be all right.
podcast long as hell, but like you, the irony of this being the longest podcast we've had in a while. So have you seen on? So I'm sure you have, because your social feed would probably be full of it. The amount of dude bro financial guys pushing the concept that nobody should even bother buying a home because renting frees up more fucking capital to go put it in other places. So the idea of literally never even bothering to buy.
That's what Grant Cardone preaches. And typically the people that say that shit to you are typically, they want your money.
Yes.
So that they can go and buy a bunch of assets, and they're going to use OPM, other people's money.
Yes.
And listen, if anybody out there is telling you that you should be renting, and you should be going to buy rental properties, but you should be renting yourself, they're dipshits. I'm just gonna, they're dipshits if they say it with such conviction, and they say it with absolute, without knowing everybody's personal situation. There are times in which you should rent instead of buying. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Absolutely. Especially in high cost areas like California, New York, or anything like that. You're going to get far more bang for your buck renting than what you ever will in trying to buy.
Yeah.
Right? But if you're in a position to buy, and you're well off, or you've got a fantastic career, buying a property, that's how most people, when they retire, most of their wealth is in their home for average people.
Yeah.
That's where their nest egg, and it's like forced saving. You just paying down, and it's what you'll leave to your kids, or some people may sell, and that'll be the retirement. They'll go to a home or whatever, and they'll live off that, and that's that. Typically, owning a home is better, but owning a home is only better if you can afford that home. Buying a home to just buy a home because some douchebag told you that, why are you renting? You should be owning the same amount. You're paying $1,800 a month for this rent when you could be paying maybe $2,000 a month for your mortgage, $200 difference, and now you own. But they don't understand. You need the down payment for that. You need maintenance, right? All the things that we just talked about.
Property tax, insurance.
In the last 12 months, I put in 30 grand into this house on improvements. They were necessities. Like HVAC goes out, washer dryer gone. Like, you kind of need these things, right? It's not like, oh, we just decided to go add some shit to add some shit. This is what happens when you have home ownership. You have to be able to foot the bill. You need reserves. You need to understand the risks of owning a property, or really the responsibility of owning a property. You can't just call your landlord and be like, yo, I got a leaky faucet. Can you come fix it for me? When you own a house, you got to go fix it, or you got to pay somebody to go fix it. And this shit adds up. This shit adds up. So owning a house, absolutely. I think everybody should strive to own a home if that's what you want. You're far better off doing that than renting if you're in a position to do. And a lot of the times you have to rent before you can buy. And you just want to make sure that you're renting in a place that you can still save. And a lot of people where they get stuck is they just give up on the dream of owning a home. And they go, okay, well, how much rent can we actually afford? And they'll stretch that bitch to the core. And they'll pay $2,500, $3,000 a month to live in something that they would have liked to have bought for themselves. When in reality, if they would have just went down a notch, that extra bit of money that you can save each and every month, you know, you can start to build a down payment. Right. And I know it's easier said than done because the world sucks right now and it's awful. And it's harder now than ever to buy a home. So I sympathize. I get that. But like, you're just never going to get there if all you do is spend all you have on rent every month. And a lot of people will make the excuse, well, I need this. I need that. I need that. You want that. You want those things. What you need is a roof over your head, working toilet, working this, working that, X amount of bedrooms for your family, and that's all you need. You just want to be in that cool neighborhood. You just want to be close to downtown because you want the option to be able to just go wherever. You want these things. The thing is, are you willing to make the sacrifice to get ultimately what you actually want? And most people, you know, it's what's that saying? They overestimate what they can do in a year, but they highly underestimate what they can do in a decade. And if you just stick to it, you'll get there. I didn't start snowballing where I'm at until year 7.5, year 8 of my career. This didn't happen overnight, right? And a lot of sacrifice. I lived in places that I could afford way better, but I just opted to not do it, right? And, you know, anyway, I don't want to keep rambling on about it, but yes.
It is. We talk about it, but we're both in homes, and it is very difficult to get into a house right now. It's nearly impossible, and we talked about it before, especially in Canada with the way things are. But I guess the mindset that you have to have is that if you do want it, you really do only have one or two choices, which is you either decide that you're just going to rent, and that's going to be it, or you decide that you don't want to do that forever. You might have to do it for a long period of time because the world is literally fucking dumpstered right now. But if you don't start and work at it, it won't ever happen anyway. You can't. And the worst case scenario is you're doing it and you're going to have money to put elsewhere if you do at some point down the line decide, you know what, the house is just not going to happen. I can't make it work, but I tried for a while and now I've got all this, I've got all this capital laying around. Maybe there's something else I can do with it. And you wouldn't have had that if you were just blowing it all constantly. And doing it. But it's hard because people are trying to find that balance between living a life where they still have some frivolities. They're allowed to buy themselves a Starbucks, cinnamon dolce grande, suck your dick sideways type shit and whatever. Lots of people telling them, stop buying avocados, stop buying Starbucks, stop
That's
fucking
bullshit,
doing it. Which is just ridiculous.
That's all bullshit. Like, everything in moderation. But like, if you're gonna listen to somebody and they're gonna say, "Listen, you need to stop getting Starbucks, and you need to stop. You need to cancel like every single Netflix thing and just pirate everything." And this is what's gonna get you
work and sleep and work and sleep and never live.
You need certain things in your life, and trust me, if spending $100 a month in frivolous, eating out or coffees, that ain't gonna change your financial life. It'll help. It'll create some discipline. It'll compound over, years. But like, dude, that's usually not the problem.
No,
that's not the core issue, right? So,
no, definitely not.
You don't need to deprive yourself of everything to get something.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to go in just a completely different direction. And it is what it is, man. But the world is tough out there, bro. It's fucking
dude. It's fucking tough. Brutal, man. It is. It's fucking brutal. What was it? The stat right now that because of the average rental and then in Canada price, the average rent price, and then the average salary or shared take home pay for many individuals it could take upwards of 20 years to save a down payment for the average price of a house. And that's if the house market isn't a moving target, which it is a moving target. And so it's very challenging. So when somebody looks at that statistic, it's so easy to immediately just be like, fuck it.
Fuck this.
But sometimes this is gonna sound real fucking weird and like or not weird, but like real fucking like motivational speakery. But when you look at a statistic, you got to decide to yourself, am I a statistic or am I an individual? And maybe I don't have to be the average. Maybe I can be better than average. I can be above average. That doesn't mean that you have to be David fucking Goggins or whatever the fuck and stay hard. Stay hard. You don't need that. But it doesn't mean that you have to try and strive to be a multi-billionaire. But if you look at the average person, you go, is that fine? Or maybe do I want, a little bit more than that? Which is how I live my life. I live my life at like the 80% rule, because if I lived at 100, I'd already be dead. So like I live by the 80% rule, where like that's why I said, I don't have the Constitution. I'd be fucking dead. So for me, it's like, I always look at it this way. I'm like, man, I live close to my parents. They're still here. I get to see them all the time. I get to have a house and a family here, and it's not the biggest house on the block. It's not the biggest house by any means. It's not the nicest, house, but Dad and I put the fucking work into it, so it's got our handprints all over it and shit. And I'll be able to pay this thing down. And then, if it does become a generational thing, do I hand that to my kids? Whatever, doesn't matter. But I'm okay with that.
Yep.
It's hard and it takes a lot of work, but I feel like some people, especially because of social media, they look at it in a binary sense where it's like, I either own nothing or I own a $3 million house in a market where the average house costs $700,000 because I want to have a 7,000 square foot home with a 5-car garage, et cetera, instead of just, clawing it back a bit and just realizing, hey, you can have something. You're not living the true lives, Beverly Hills, whatever the fuck kind of lifestyle here. But really, who really wants to live with a bunch of plastic shit? Just appreciate what you got and don't take average.
No, you know what, bro? Nobody in today, very few. I'm sure there are some, but I can honestly say from me, and probably the majority of people listening to this, when you drive down any neighborhood and you see the smallest house, maybe there's an old 1991 Honda Civic sitting in the driveway, you don't think to yourself, them guys are broke. Smallest house in the neighborhood with a bitch-made car. Nobody thinks that way, dude. Whenever one of my friends buys a house, I am genuinely happy for them.
Gassed up, yeah.
I'm gassed the fuck up. It doesn't matter if it is that 7,000 square foot mansion or it's 1,000 square foot a condo or whatever. I understand how hard it is to save up, to make the commitment, to put yourself out there, to work hard and own something that is yours and your family's. That is to be commended. And you know what? I don't fucking let anybody make you feel like you need to go buy that extra house to impress somebody that doesn't give a fuck about you. They don't care. They don't give a fuck. They just don't. And that's just the way it is. And Adam's 100% right. You want to be another statistic, or do you want to go above and beyond? Because chances are, if you're a single person, you're not going to be able to afford a house here in North America unless you're living out in fucking, the boonies somewhere where houses are still pretty fucking cheap. But if you're living in any big city, even a medium-sized city, it's tough, especially with these interest rates. It's damn near impossible. If you have a dual income house, you can make it swing. The problem is it's going to be a lot of saving up, a lot of sacrifice, and a lot of the times because of life. Car payments, credit card payments, student debt, medical debt, fucking, if you have kids, daycare, gas. The list goes on and on. Groceries to feed power, heat. To have most people to even have an extra $500 at the end of a month, you're like fucking killing it.
Huge.
You're killing it.
If you have no debt, if you have no debt,
well, no,
I mean consumer debt.
Not even human. You're not even human. You're like on a whole nother fucking level.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is, you might be working the job, you might be working your ass, you might not have a lot, and it might not seem like you can get further ahead, but the cold reality of it is, I'm not even going to say cold hard truth, but the reality of it is this. Chances are you're going to need to work extra. You're going to need that side hustle. You're going to need to be uncomfortable for a season to snowball up. Because think of it, if you're running Uber Eats just on the weekends and you can pull in an extra $500 on a weekend or $300 on a weekend, yeah, those are the times in which you want to just relax and fucking, chill out. And, you've worked hard all week and it sucks. Fucking sucks. But like, honestly, the sacrifice that you'll make and your family will make, you not being there when you really want to be there, but to get to the place where you own a home and you can have a lifetime's worth of memories and things that you don't have to answer to anybody. It's your place. I mean, you have to answer the bank and stuff, but like, you know what I'm saying? It's worth the sacrifice if you want to make it. Some people just don't. And there's nothing wrong with being a renter. There's nothing wrong with it. There just isn't. There's tons of renters out there that don't want to own a house. They don't want to be tied down to one location. They like to move. They don't want to have the responsibility of buying this, buying that. And if that's you, hey, you don't have to worry about any of this shit. You just live your life. Who cares? All good.
Speaking of living lives, we should probably try to live ours. It's been 3.5 hours on a podcast with 2 notes. 3 if you count the Jesus this week was slow note.
But that just goes to show, Adam, we don't need notes, man.
We can go off the script. It's true. It's our superpower. I do want to thank Nasky, Jay Nasky, for a €50 banger that came in on YouTube on this super chat.
I don't even have YouTube chat up. All I have is Twitch. I forgot we were streaming on YouTube.
Yeah. So I had to get that out there. I saw it when it happened, but I just needed to wait for my opportunity.
My bad.
To get it in there. Nah, it's all good. We got it. But bless. Thank you, Jay Nasky. Bless.
Let's go. Thank you.
I think that's probably a good place to call it.
I think so.
We got to go cast some StarCraft. So let's go.
Real estate questions. Keep them coming.
We'll see you guys next week. Thank you very much. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you're listening to this on the RSS feeds, then oh boy, we got you to work and home and change on this banger. We'll see you guys next week. Until we do, have a good one. Stay safe and peace.
Peace.